scream, feel the adrenaline rush, throwing fists and kicks, the pain we can't hush. And then they find us, we're the real tough guys, breaking down barriers, we aim for the skies. Into the octagon, like a warrior I stand, slaying blows, taking hits as I command. The art of combat, I'm ready to go. Submission, knockout, that's how I flow. Unleashing the fury like an untamed beast, locked in a cage where strength is released. Striking precision, grappling with my golden octagon. The stage we ignite. Unleashing the fury like an untamed beast, locked in a cage where strength is released. Striking precision, grappling like a golden octagon. The stage we ignite.
And we are live. Welcome to the Golden Octagon MMA Podcast with your hosts, Matt and D Rose.
And what's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Golden Octagon MMA Podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and on the other side of your screen is your other host, D Rose. Appreciate you guys for stopping by, hanging out with us here tonight over on the Golden Octagon MMA Podcast. Got on my only piece of Atlanta merchandise I still own. I dug in my closet way back when I was a Falcons fan, back before 2017. I pulled it out and I put it on for the show today. D Rose, how you doing today, my guy?
I love how you're all Atlanted out. You know, coming into the background, you had "Welcome to Atlanta" playing by Ludacris. You know, kind of getting into the flow of the moment. So I like the theme coming into the day. No, everything's been good this way. You know, kind of had a little bit of a relaxed day. Ended up taking the family out to the pool. We actually ended up going to the frog pond, believe it or not.
Frog pond.
Yeah, I was like, man, but you know, it was some. Hey, get out the house, got the kids going a little bit. Think, pool kind of warm out a little bit, so hopefully we can get a nice little easy bedtime for them tonight and everything. So, but no, everything's been good.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I just remember I have like memories from when when I was a kid going there. I swear every time that I went there, somebody always like left a floater in it and like they had to clear out the pool. And then it's like everyone was like waiting to get back in. And I'm like, they just pooped in there. Y'all are ready to just jump back in after they just pull it out and wait 45 minutes? Like, I'm done for the day, y'all. Like, I'm gonna need like a full like 24 hours in a cleaning before I get back in that pool.
I might need a week. Yeah, I might need a week before at least, you know, if not longer. You know, if I did see a turd in there, you know, thankfully, there was multiple times where those happened where I was never there, but I always heard about the stories, and I'm glad I always dodged those bullets.
Yeah, man, it never failed. It was almost like every time I showed up there, someone's like, he ain't gonna have a good day. Watch this. Like,
Scared shit out of people when you walked in.
Indeed. With that being said, we appreciate y'all for stopping by. Let's get into the chat real quick, and then we'll get into the show. We got Antoine here. Yo, LFG boys. I used to work at the State Farm Arena 2019 to 2024, but this female coworker got me in trouble, and I lost my job. What a hoe. What a hoe, Antoine. I'm sorry that happened, man. Austin wants to know if that was your first harassment allegation. Oh, goodness gracious. Austin says, what's up, everyone? And then we got Antoine. Yo, what's up, boys? Best night of the week. And Antoine said, no, a sports journalist I was making connection with, and she told HR and got me fired the next day. Oh, what a hoe, dude. What a hoe. Yeah, and then Antoine rocking the Julio jersey. He's a future Hall of Famer. Hell yeah, Julio was my guy. Fight week ain't fight week without TGO, says Manny. I appreciate it, Manny. Shout out Manny Sanchez for stopping by here tonight in the chat. So, how it's going to work? We're going to really quickly recap UFC 316. Guess who's not eating beans this week and with two thumbs? This guy. D Rose got to eat beans this week. We got some UFC news and fight announcements to go over, quite a bit, to be honest. And then we have our UFC Atlanta, Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley, our predictions, our preview, and our picks for this upcoming weekend's fights. And we didn't do it last weekend. And I feel like if we would have done it last weekend, we would have saved D Rose some money. But the fisting of the week, and I'm pretty sure we can narrow it down to at least two, but it's probably going to be one, D Rose, and I'm sure we already know what that is. With that being said, if you guys wouldn't mind, hit that thumbs up button, and we will go ahead and get into the show. So UFC 316 this past weekend, D Rose, was a sad one for me. Not gonna lie, you know as well as everyone else on the channel, I'm a huge Sean O'Malley fan, so I was really wanting him to win. Came in great shape. I thought he was going to do so much better, but man, Merab is just good, man. I don't know who's going to beat that guy, and I know a lot of people were saying like, Corey Sandhagen's next. It's like, man, he was getting taken down pretty easily by Umar, and he was able to scramble and get back up, but is he able to do that same thing against Merab? And even so, he's still getting taken down over and over and over. He's still going to lose that fight. I just have a hard time, dude. I have a hard time seeing anyone that's going to beat Merab right now, and it's just a tough fight for anyone in the division. So Merab wins, second round submission. What's your thoughts on the fight, and then where do you think each goes from here? I will give you my opinion on Sean O'Malley after you tell me.
I think just as far as the fight in total, it's scary to think for bantamweights, but Merab at 34 is getting better. Like, I mean, he's actually adding finishing ability to his game now. He's adding good submissions. I saw a quote from where Sean O'Malley was talking about the submission where he said, at first it wasn't tight initially, which is why he rolled. When he rolled, he felt safe. But then, Merab just got that crank in there, and he just kind of, pulled on his, and almost just like it was like this crushing his esophagus. And, just the way that Merab was able to set that up, that just goes to show that he's just adding more to his game now. Now he's going to have the wrestling, and he's going to have the, potentially submission ability, some ground and pound and stuff like that. I do like the mentality that Merab came in with this week, saying that, he wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to do any of the, showboating and stuff like that, and wanted to make sure that he actually went for the finish, and he was a man of his word. And I even thought that Sean O'Malley, in certain instances of the fight, looked even, I don't want to say better than he did in the first fight, but he had moments. It's not like he was getting, completely washed, but it was just like once it started going bad, it's just, you can't stop Merab. He's just an absolute, again, the machine for a reason. He just doesn't stop. And, it's just, even if he loses power, or his hands did look a little bit better because he was kind of tagging Sean a little bit. Sean did have a couple of lumps on his eyes when he left the fight, but it's just almost like, when could the cardio ever go bad? And power's the last thing to go. Speed's one of the things that first things to go when you start getting older. But when does the cardio go? And he just still got that better than anybody. And I'm with you. I really don't see. Even though the Corey fight, I mean, because I know that's going to be next for Merab. I am with you. I still don't see Corey being that significant of a challenge for Merab. And I think for Sean, man, I think, I mean, me personally, I wouldn't mind a Peter Yan rematch. I mean, just because I think that's a good fight. I still think that's a winnable fight for Sean, and that's a fight to where you can say, hey, maybe he can get a title shot off of a win. Or if you don't do that with Sean, just do what you did with him before. Look, I'm not going to say match him up against just absolute cans like Chris Moutinho, but I mean, what would a fight? I don't know if they're teammates or anything, but Jonathan Martinez, what would a fight? I mean, he could fight a guy like that who, possibly still ranked, lower teens in the division, but somebody who could provide a little bit of a challenge and he can still beat. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that for Sean next.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, and then Antoine actually asked here, did you think Sean was going to retire when he took his gloves off? No, personally, because Sean's like that big of a name that, dude, is as soon as that fight's over, UFC is trying to get everything they can off him because every single bit of that is worth so much money, dude. If you just look at the UFC collectible site, dude, the price of this shit goes for so much money, like the fight worn shit. So they're trying to get everything they can off of him as soon as they can. So he's not, taking off his shirt, giving it to someone in the fucking stands, shit like that, because that's thousands and thousands of dollars just gone, just giving it some away every single time. So, like, unless they're an older guy or it's like, they've like lost, multiple fights in a row. I don't ever think they're going to like retire. I would say like if like Aljo, lost, his next two, I could see him like, like here comes the gloves, like he was the champion for a little bit, like fucking moved up, won, and then, kind of fucking lost the next two. I could see him like retiring like fucking after that. But I think it's way too early for O'Malley to like retire. And I actually agree with you, D Rose. I actually don't mind that Peter Yan matchup, or just not. I'm not calling him Max Holloway, but treat him like that. Hey, if you want someone to have a title shot, have them fight Sean O'Malley next. And if he's clearly fucking beating all these guys, then I know no one really wants to see it, but we might eventually need to see Merab versus Sean 3 if he just is just killing everyone else before they actually get a title shot. So, but. Yeah, I think it's a little bit early for retirement.
Hey, I did want to ask you this because I did want to get your opinion, because everybody going into the fight, whatnot, whatever. Hey, did Sean deserve the fight or not? We knew that in terms of what they thought the pay-per-view sales were going to be able to do, that this is going to be the most marketable fight. But do you think in terms of maybe like the development in Sean's game, that doing a back-to-back fight camp against Merab, like, do you think he should have had a fight in between, maybe going for that second shot at Merab?
I don't know, man. It's tough because like if the UFC offers you like a title fight, are you going to say no? Like, so I mean, and there was time in between. Like I know this was like originally like kind of targeted, like is it going to be March? Like everyone's like that's way too soon, like and so it got pushed back and back and back, and it happened late May, so or early June, whatever. But yeah, I just hate to see it. Does Sean ever fight for a title again? He's only 30. I think so, man. He's got I saw 3 more years to at least be in his prime fighting at his best potential. That's my guess. So we'll move on down to the co-main event. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison, dude. Man, I just wanted to believe. This is kind of how I feel about the main event, but this is just what I wanted to believe, really. But I know Sean had a chance. But in the co-main event, I just really wanted to believe Juliana had a chance. But it's like, dude, Kayla is so big. Like it was like, what is Juliana better at than Kayla at all? It's like we really haven't seen anything. Kayla was better everywhere. Our person was just hoping, for that stamina sucker, for her to come in there and suck the stamina of Kayla Harrison. But she ends up getting in there, taken down, and submitted in the second round. Yeah, not a good look, but it is what it is. But I think the main highlight from this fight was after the fight. Took a little bit to get her in there, but Amanda Nunes did step in the octagon, and I was not surprised because I kind of thought it was going to happen. But after the fight was over, odds for the fight have already came out, D Rose, And Kayla Harrison's like a minus 210 favorite. Amanda Nunes is like plus 145. I'm like, I don't want to say I'm going to throw money on it right now because nothing's official. I don't think Amanda Nunes is in the like testing pool or anything like that. So as soon as we get a date, something scheduled, if Amanda Nunes is the dog still, I'm putting all my money in my bank account on Amanda Nunes, dude. I think she's going to go in there and clobber Kayla Harrison. I don't think there's a chance in hell, dude, but that's just my opinion. I would like to know your opinion on what fight we got to see between Pena and Harrison, and then what's up next between Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison.
Yeah, I thought that Kayla Harrison was going to be able to get the sub again. Juliana Pena, if there's one thing that she's tough as hell, but she does tend to have some flaws when she does get taken down, and she has been submitted multiple times in her career. So I did see that being a path to victory for Kayla. She did get that a lot quicker than what I said maybe third round. So getting in the second round was kind of crazy, and heard her talk about it after the fight. When she went for that submission, she said she didn't really think about going for it until she heard the clapper. And when she heard the clapper, like she was like, oh, shoot, I got 10 seconds left. Might as well go ahead and go for something, a Hail Mary. Worst case, I miss and she gets up, and there's a couple seconds left. And she had went for that, kind of just as a Hail Mary there to end the second round and to lock that in. When we were watching it, you were like, man, what did she tap to? And then all of a sudden you saw the other side and you're like, whoa, okay, that's wicked. Like, yeah, I see why she tapped now, because that was a gruesome submission. It got violent so quickly. Just the way she just cranked her arm back like that. I like that they were able to embrace after the fight as well, and her and Juliana, came together and were able to, I believe they said a prayer for one another and whatnot. So I did like them coming together at the end of the fight and being able to do that. And I think for Nunes and Harrison's sake, I mean that's a big time fight, man. I mean that's a fight that I know we've been kind of talking about women's MMA been a little down here lately, but we could potentially have Wei Lee versus Valentina and Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. That's some pretty good matchmaking there. To get some of the greatest of this time of all the women in there together fighting one another. So I love the potential matchup. The biggest thing for me is going to be the ring rust for Amanda, because USADA's not involved, so there's really who's really the testing pool, quote unquote. But is there really anything there outside of what USADA was? And even USADA, look how much they bent the rules and stuff for certain fighters back in the day as well. So whatever that means, sure. But we can maybe see the fight at the beginning of 2026, but I think that's a good fight. But I would have to favor Amanda going into it, man. I just think, her knowing the takedowns are coming and stuff like that, her striking is going to be levels above Kayla Harrison. So, yeah, I am going to be potentially interested. But I almost wonder if, like, either one of them win, do both of them retire? Like, if Amanda wins, does she like, okay, yep, that's the fight I needed. I'm going to retire again. And then it's just like, okay, so what was that for? Like, I don't know. It just almost seems like there's nothing there for Amanda after this fight. So I'm curious to see where each of them go after that fight.
Yeah, and I don't know how many more times Kayla can make 135 on the dot, dude. That looks like it killed her, dude. Like, she didn't have anything left. Like, you could see her, like, whole skull. And it's Harrison versus Nunes and main event. I think it'd be cool for them to do, hear me out, an entire WMMA card. Like, 2 title fights, Harrison versus Nunes, and like fucking Whaley, like fucking versus like fucking Valentina, and then just like banger fights like all the way down, like Manon Fuhr versus Natalia Silva, like fucking on there. Just like Andrade, I know this would never happen, but like Andrade versus like the Nisi Gomes, just fucking bangers all the way down the card. We don't have to see like another one for like a fucking month, because we've got all the WMA fights like out of the way for like fucking 3 or 4 months, but an all WMMA card. But they got to be fucking bangers though, because I'm not trying to see a fight like our co-main event this fucking weekend, dude. I gotta be honest, I feel sorry for people that are expecting it to be an entire banger card through the entire like fucking fight night, because your co-main event this weekend between Miranda Maverick and Rose, I'm sorry, that's a terrible co-main event. I'm sorry. It's just not the best fight. It just don't belong in the co-main event spot. But
I do like that idea of having the Valentina Whaley co-main, Amanda Harrison main. But I am with Dave, and I'm not gonna lie, that's what I was laughing at too, was Dave's comment, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to see a whole
one time ever though. But I think it'd be cool
to see, if we do like I don't know, maybe the end of the year card, the last card of the year, we do going out with a bang, to end the year, we do Nunes, Harrison, and then Whaley and Valentina in the co-main, and then you have a bunch of good matchups, underneath that. But I would love to see them in the main and co-main.
Fair enough.
Card,
I think it'd be cool. Just one time ever. Like all the bangers though. Can't be fucking PBFs the whole time. With that being said, moving on down, feature fight of the night was KG Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer beat the brakes off of Kelvin Gastelum in the first round, and then kind of fucking gassed, dude. Not gonna lie, it's like Kelvin's kind of got a chance here, but Joe Pyfer does win via decision. Dude, I don't know really where Joe Pyfer's ceiling is, if I'm going to be honest, because if the fighter can last past that, first 7 minutes, dude, and they hold their power late, they can put on that pressure late, dude. They might cook Joe Pyfer. Like, I'd be curious to see what, Fluffy versus Joe Pyfer looks like, dude. I think Fluffy would just cook Joe Pyfer. I think he would. Yeah. Like, I think he would cook him in a 3-rounder, dude. That's the wild part. Like, I'm interested to see where Joe Pyfer's ceiling is at. So, I guess thoughts on KG versus Mr. Body Bags?
Yeah, I mean, I thought obviously Joe Pyfer looked awesome in the first round. I mean, that first round, to knock Kelvin Gastelum down, what was it, 3 times he knocked him down? I mean, that was clearly a 10-8 round, and for the one judge to not give him a 10-8 and to judge that round a 10-9, that round was in no way, shape, or form close to a 10-9. That was at best a 10-8. You could have made it a 10-7, and I would not have been mad. That's how much Joe Pyfer was putting it on Kelvin Gastelum there in the first round. I did think Joe Pyfer won the second round, but you could see, especially there towards the end of the second round, he was starting to huff and puff a little bit. Kelvin Gastelum was slipping his shots a little bit more, and he was starting to land in that boxing range. And in the third round there, I mean, it almost looked like Joe Pyfer was just kind of like looking up. He wasn't actually looking up at the clock, but it almost felt like just in his body language, like he's looking up at the clock, just making sure, like, hey, okay, I won the first 2 rounds. Just don't get hit here. Don't get hit clean, and, I can get out of here with a win. And, Kelvin Gastelum's kind of putting it on there. We were watching the fight. We both kind of said, hey, we don't like the way, Joe Pyfer's kind of ending this fight, even though the way that he started that fight, obviously I had the over 2.5. I felt confident in that. But, dude, after those first couple of sequences of the first round, I'm sitting here grabbing my chest because I'm like, dude, I got lemon booty. I got it all, dude. Because I'm like, dude, this ain't going to hit. Why did I bet this? And then after that, it just looked like Joe Pyfer was just trying to keep it safe. So, I think Joe Pyfer matchup dependent. Like, I think if he fights somebody like Brendan Allen, I think he gets Brendan Allen out of there just because we're Brendan Allen so chinny at times and has bad fight IQ at times. Yeah, somebody like Fluffy, that's gonna be a terrible matchup for him. Will Joe Pyfer fight for the belt? I really don't know. I think that's the tough part, is that I don't know how much we really learned from this fight compared to what we've already thought about him. Is that he's got a lot of talent, good power, explosive, but he does tend to fade as the fight goes. So, you want to try to see him get that cleaned up a little bit. He's obviously got the potential, but you want to see him kind of put it together a little bit more in terms of the cardio.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on down, we got, I know this one hurts you, dude, Mario Bautista and Patchy Mix, dude. No love, Patchy Mix. We get a no love this past weekend and a no love this upcoming weekend. Dude, we were watching this live together, and like as the fight was happening, like you weren't really saying a whole lot, and that's how I knew you that like that one really bothered you because you like really thought fucking Patchy Mix like was, you know, at least gonna win that fight. And me on the other end, when the fights fucking started, I was just like, you know, let me wait and see. You know, let me wait and see how he fucking turns out. And then I was watching embeddeds and countdown and shit, and he was so confident, dude. He was like, I'm gonna beat Mario. Whoever taught him fucking jujitsu, I want to submit them and their whole team. Like I was like, dude, this guy's talking like he has so much shit. Like he's gonna go out there and blow the doors off of Mario Bautista. And if he doesn't, it's fucking kind of an L. Like if he fucking goes out there and just wins fucking by decision, it's kind of an L. But that didn't even happen. He went out there, and as I said there in the fight, it looked like he was just stuck in the mud, dude. He had absolutely zero fucking head movement. Like I was like it was almost like he didn't have a neck. Like it's like he couldn't move his head. It was just right there, stuck on the center line. I made the comparison to Amanda Hebus without the imagination, but he was just getting just touched up over and over, and it was almost like. Was it UFC jitters, you know, being his like UFC debut? Because like it wasn't like he just like went out there and just got outclassed. It was like he wasn't doing anything. He just went out there and was just standing there, just getting touched up over and over. And it's like, I think maybe like the third round he threw a few combinations, but it's like, bro, you've already lost 2.5 rounds at this point. Like, if you don't fucking finish them right now, it's done. And shortly enough, time just runs out. Mario Bautista wins via decision. I guess. Let me know your thoughts on this, and then we'll talk about where Patchy Mix goes next from here at 20-2.
Yeah, I just thought it was, for me, it was just shocking the way that he looked, man. I mean, that just, again, for a lot of people, that was probably their first time watching him fight. And if that was your first time watching him fight, you're like, why the hell was this dude hyped up the way he was? And to be honest, I mean, that guy looked like a guy who might have been on like his 4th or 5th fight or something. Like he looked like a guy coming off the Ultimate Fighter or the Contender Series or something like that. You know, he didn't look like a world champion from other organizations. And I just really thought the biggest thing for me, and you know, I did mention it multiple times on the stream, was that why are you not trying to get this to the ground in any means whatsoever? Like Mario Bautista had even noted going into the fight that the biggest things he needs to worry about, he didn't want to shoot any takedowns because he was worried about Patchy Mix's front head choke, you know, kind of like the standing guillotine, and he did not want Patchy Mix to get his back because he knows that they say that Patchy Mix and Aljamain Sterling have a similar backpack. Just in terms of if they have your back, you're not getting them off. So you know, to me, it's just mind-boggling that, you know, there was no real takedown attempt at all. You know, I think I did mention it on the broadcast or the stream that we did the other day that, like, why do you have Tatiana Suarez in your corner if you're not even going to think about wrestling at all? Like, you're going to try to turn this into a striking match with Mario Bautista? And, you know, like, as you said, you know, there in the 3rd round, he was landing a few combos, but, dude, he was eating a few shots, and, like, it was clearly bothering him. Like, he kept having, like, this squinting face, like the old show Bewitched back in the day, you know, where the witch is kind of twitching her nose. That's kind of what Mario Bautista was like, or Patchy Mix, you know, he was just getting popped and just twitching his nose, and you know, he just looked uncomfortable the whole time. You know, it looked like there in the 3rd round he started getting a little bit more comfortable as he went. I know after the fight he's going to mention that, hey, you know, I took the fight on 3 weeks' notice, whatever. If that was the real cause, then, you know, you could have had an opportunity to say no. You know, the UFC was going to come with an offer eventually because they knew that Patchy Mix was a free agent. There was a lot of people who were excited about him coming into the UFC. He could have had another offer down the road. Now, I understand what he's trying to say, that, hey, he wanted to get back in there and fight because he was off for a long time in PFL. You know, maybe he had a little ring rust coming in, whatnot. I don't know. But I think, you know, it's especially for a guy like Mario Bautista, again, we've said it multiple times. We'll say it again. Mario Bautista is a good fighter. Like, I know people don't like to say that just because he had the weird performance against Aldo when he got the win when people didn't think so, or whatever the case may be. But Mario Bautista is a good fighter. And if the 3 weeks was going to be a thing, you should have never taken the fight. So, I don't want to shoot Patchy Mix in the foot for, not getting the win. But you can't come with those excuses after the fact, man. But yeah, in terms of where he goes next, I really don't. I mean, it's going to be tough for him. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I would have said before he got matched up with Bryce Mitchell, I would have said maybe a Saeed Nurmagomedov or somebody like that, just kind of a tough enough opponent. But I think somebody who he could still potentially get a win against, or again, I'll throw out another guy. I just throw him out there, but Jonathan Martinez, another guy like that, or Daniel Marcos, I think any of those guys might be the ones that's going to be next for Patchy Mix.
What's going on, Daniel? How you doing, brother? I personally think it needs to be a bigger step down, like maybe someone not ranked at all, dude. Maybe someone ranked right outside the top 15. But either way, I hope he's an underdog and it's against a person that's, against a UFC level fighter that's maybe gone 5 wins, 3 losses, in the UFC.
What if Cody Garbrandt wins?
Dude, if Cody Garbrandt wins this fight, the UFC is going to be chomping at the bit to get him another win so they can make Sean O'Malley versus Cody Garbrandt, dude. They would. They're like, we need to get Cody Garbrandt fucking ranked again so we can get Sean O'Malley versus Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, honestly, and that would be a banger of a fight too. I think that would be but that's the thing. I think instead of doing that, you give Patchy Mix a matchup against a guy who he could potentially beat, former UFC champion, or hey, if Cody ends up beating a guy like Patchy Mix, maybe they just rank him number 13 just because the UFC can kind of control the rankings however they want, and then end up making the fight to begin with anyway. But I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I get it. I think it'd be fun either way, but Patchy should be a underdog in his next fight if it's against someone that's at least decent, and I'll probably take a shot on him as the dog. But he was just a favorite this past weekend, and I just didn't really think that he wasn't necessarily should be. But moving on down, we got Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. The Trailblazer Kevin Holland gets it done. I was really hoping it was KO 1-2. But I just had Kevin Holland moneyline bet. I had Kevin Holland round 1-2 bet. I had Kevin Holland finish bet. But I was really hoping it was the KO 1-2 because I did have that in more than a few. But he gets the, second round? Second round Darce choke, as you were wanting the Darce choke, D-Rose, but just it happened for the opposite fighter. Give me your thoughts on Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I would say that, Kevin Holland, he's looking more fired up here lately. He's been looking a little more fired up in the last few fights, and I do like how, even when Luque went for the takedown, he just kept hitting him with those hammer fists. And I think, it was one time. Now I'm having a rough time clearing this goober out here. But man, when they were in the clinch, and I told you, I said Kevin Holland's biggest thing that I've always criticized him for is that he has a lot of range on guys, but he never uses it. He likes to stand in the pocket and trade sometimes. He used his range so well. He was able to keep Luque at the end of his jab for the most part, or at the end of his right hand, was able to get out of the way of Luque's big shots for the most part, was able to avoid the takedowns. And even when it got into the clinch, he hit Luque with that big old elbow that left that mouse right behind Luque's ear there as well. So, and to top it off, to finish Vicente Luque with Vicente Luque's favorite and most famous submission, the Darce choke as well. Yeah, that's next level for Kevin Holland, man. I mean, I like the way he looked out there Saturday, and if he can keep looking like that, man, I mean, he can beat. I'm not going to say everybody.
He can beat the people that he wants to fight, the old guys in the cans.
Yeah,
he said he don't want to fight nobody good.
hey, you could say outside of Ruzaboyev. Joaquin Buckley did that on his way potentially to a title shot. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's fought enough old guys until he worked his way up. He got Vicente Luque on that hit list as well. Hey, and he's kind of following the same blueprint. So hey, I like the call outs as well, calling out Colby, and maybe he can get Usman after that next as well. Who knows? But yeah, I think Kevin Holland can give a lot of guys problems, man, at 170, as long as he stays locked in like he seems to be here lately.
Yeah, man, for sure. So prelims, Josh Van gets the 3rd round KO over Bruno Silva, dude. I don't know. We weren't streaming live yet, dude, but me and Nancy were sitting right beside each other, and I'm like, I really need this 3rd round KO right here. Me and you are messaging back and forth. I actually messaged you. I'm like, man, I need him to get this finish. And as soon as I fucking messaged you that, you replied, right when it happened, I looked down and I saw the 3 dots fucking popping up. It was there you go. Josh Van gets a 3rd round KO. I bet it almost every Josh Van fight, and he never gets it. He finally got it this past weekend, and it helped me cash a bet that I did cash out on because I'm a hoe. But I'm glad I cashed out on it because I would have fucking lost. So cashed out on one, and your boys was able to pay for some new glasses today. So hell yeah, shout out me. Yeah, Josh Van gets a 3rd round KO. What's your thoughts on that fight, man? And then we got some news to talk about, we'll just talk about it right now. Real quick, the news came out that Josh Van, after this fight, is now stepping in versus Manel Kopp. Stepping in for Manel Kopp on UFC 317 against Raw Dog Brandon Royval. So Josh Van's staying active. So thoughts on the fight, and then thoughts on the short notice late replacement for Manel Kopp.
I mean, at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and I'll tell you now, I'm going to go ahead and order me some Josh Van shirts. I don't know how or where I want to get them from, but yeah, I've got to go ahead and give me a shirt at this point, man. The dude's an absolute savage. I mean, he is slowly but surely going to be your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. Dude, what is he, 6-1 in the UFC? He hasn't even been in the UFC a full 2 years yet. I think November makes 2 years that he's been in the UFC, and he already has 6 wins now against some good competition. He had the one slip up against Charles Johnson, and even then, me and you were both watching that fight together, and we were saying that, hey, Josh Van starting to come on late. Charles Johnson was in such a zone at that point in time. With his fights, he was very active at that point as well. So a tough loss for him there, but dude, he's bounced back from that so well, almost as if that loss hadn't happened for Josh Van, and he is getting better and better each fight. He's 23 years old. His boxing is so clean. He's slowly but surely starting to become my favorite fighter, man. He almost has kind of this. It was almost as if Cowboy, but if Cowboy could win the big fights. At this point, Josh Van hasn't gotten quite there just yet, but just in terms of being able to turn around and fight this often and still be this dangerous and willing to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. Josh Van's a badass, man, and he's going to be your favorite fighter's favorite fighter soon enough.
Hell yeah, dude. And at 125 pounds. So moving on down, we got Azamat Murzakanov, Brendan Haberio, dude. We should have talked about it last week, dude, but we didn't. This should have been the Golden Octagon fisting of the week. But we didn't have it last week. We didn't talk about it. Kind of forgot. Slipped our mind. But then I think you ended up starting to bet Azamat 3 or decision, and it would have saved you some money if we had it as the fisting of the week. Yeah.
Yeah, because we would have bet finish in some way. And even though the crazy thing is, by knockout, it was still minus 250. So I had that in a parlay as well.
I know.
Yeah, by knockout was minus 250. So even though it would have, again, saved us some money, it's just insane to think that those odds are still even that high.
Yeah. Do you think Donald should have gone to the Hall of Fame? I think so, but I have no ground to stand on as to why, though. So,
he'll probably end up getting his nod eventually, just because he did at the time that he retired. He had all the UFC records in terms of most fights, most finishes, yada yada. I think by the time him and Jim Miller fought, I think him and Jim Miller had the most fights, they were tied for the most fights or something like that, or most wins, or whatever the case may be. So, but I think someone who stands in the record books like that, even though that he might not have won the title or might not have won the big one all the time. Fan favorite, helped move the sport. The UFC is pretty lenient in terms of who they let in the Hall of Fame, so I don't see why Cowboy wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, man. All right, let's kind of step on this because we got the early prelims left. We got all the news and the fights this weekend. We've been on here like 40 minutes already. So Sergey Spivak, Waldo Cortez Acosta. I was flipping back and forth in this one throughout this past week, and then me and you end up being split last week on the podcast. But I wasn't confident in it either way, and I did have a few bets on Waldo via decision, and thankfully I did because Waldo did win via decision. Did I personally think he won when the fight was over? I did not, have to be completely honest. What did you think about Sergey Spivak versus Waldo?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Waldo won round 2 and 3. I thought he did look better as the fight went on. Sergey Spivak, I was worried about the takedowns and stuff for Waldo, but other than that, I just thought on the feet, I thought Waldo was going to be able to just work better in the in the striking, keeping the range with the jab and everything. But no, it was a good performance for Waldo Cortez Acosta. I don't know if it's going to be anything like, that's going to just launch him up into the heavyweight rankings for a title shot potentially or anything, but it puts him within the ranking of what was Sergey Spivak, 7. So, it's going to at least put him in the top 10. So hopefully you start to see at least some type of different crop of contenders come through at heavyweight just to try to shake it up and make it a little more interesting.
Fair. So moving on down, Andreas Gustafsson, Chaos Williams, dude. I was thinking Chaos Williams, was going to win that fight. This was Andreas Gustafsson UFC debut, but man, he kind of showed us, dude. He's a big 170-pounder, strong, physical, goes out there and just pretty much does whatever he wants. So unless he fights a person with like precision striking, big power, he's probably going to beat a lot of these people. Kind of like the 170-pound Dricus du Plessis. That's kind of like how he fights. Did you see that one, or what did you think about that one? If so,
yeah, no, I did, and that was actually a pretty fun fight. I was kind of waiting for either one of them to drop at some point. So
yeah,
I did call Gustafson by decision because I did think that Chaos Williams is going to be too tough, and Chaos does have a hell of a chin because there was a couple of shots where Gustafson was landing, and I thought Chaos Williams was going to be rocked, and Chaos just kind of took a step back and was right there and was still responding with some shots of his own, but man, Gustafson just wore on him. You're right. I would say like a Dricus Kobe type mix, maybe, but maybe with a little bit more power, just constantly just wearing on you, pulling on you, pulling on your neck in the clinch, you're working the dirty boxing, just walking forward, just slinging the hooks, not even blocking shots at all. Just absolutely crazy. He looked like a madman. He calls himself the Viking. He said the Viking doesn't watch film. They just grab the axe and go to war. So, hey, if he's going to fight like that, hey, I'm not going to say this guy's going to be a champ, but hey, he's going to make the fight pretty interesting, and I'll be there for it.
Hell yeah, dude. And the early prelims, Ariane Lipsky, Tong Wang. Ariane missed weight by like 6 pounds and still lost via decision. Got leg kick dropped more than a few times, so not a good look. Jekka Sergey versus here we go. Ju Sang Yu, dude. That was, I don't want to say it was expected, but we were talking all kinds of shit about how bad Jekka Sergey was last week, and Ju Sang Yu comes out there and knocks him out with a check left hook in like 20 seconds. Like it looked like Ju Sang Yu has like Alex Pereira power down at 145, but I really just think Jekka Sergey is that bad. So I wouldn't look too much into it, but probably one of the contenders for knockout of the year by just how it happened. What do you think about that one, Dearest?
Yeah, super clean KO by Ju Sang Yu there. It was absolutely nasty. Just a pullback counter, set Jekka Sergey up perfectly, and he followed through with the shot as well. It's like, man, that was completely unnecessary. He fell straight on his face and didn't catch himself. We knew he was out. As soon as he hit the ground, we knew he was out. But yeah, super clean knockout, man. One of the knockouts of the year. At the end of the year, it's definitely going to be up for the voting. And yeah, what a hell of a performance. And was that his UFC debut? Like I know, yeah. So like his actual UFC debut, what a debut.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then the last two on the card was Quinlan Salguild versus Yanal Ashmos. Quinlan Salguild does win via decision, and Markel Medeiros versus Mark the Shark Chininski. I forgot what it is. Markel Medeiros does win via decision. So, with that being said, that is the results from this past weekend. And that shiny thing over D-Roll's shoulder, guess what? It is no more, because your boy is the new pick champ this week, back home where it belongs. Our different picks this past weekend on UFC 316 was Quinlan Salguild versus Yanal Ashmos, where I went Quinlan Salguild, D Rose went Yanal Ashmos. Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson, where I went Chaos Williams. D Rose went Andreas Gustafsson. Kevin Holland versus Vicente Luque, where I went Kevin Holland. D Rose went Vicente Luque. Mario Bautista versus Patchy Mix, where I went Mario Bautista, and D Rose went Patchy Mix. So that's already 3 of the 5. I already locked it up right there. But at that point, it was 3-1. So D Rose had another chance to get one more fight right, which was the main event, Sean O'Malley versus Merab, where I did go Sean O'Malley. D Rose did go Merab. So it finishes up 3-2, which means I am the pick champ this week, which means D Rose will be eating Bean Boozled. Let me cue this motherfucking music. It's the Bean Bop, and it don't stop.
Trying to grab my napkin. You ready?
Feeding the ducks, baby.
Man, I ain't bean bopping this week. And it does stop.
I'm bean bopping, dude. I'm happy.
Oh, gosh.
Eat the beans. Oh,
Nah,
I almost got my mouse.
I don't know what this is.
Hopefully it's black and burnt rubber. I don't have that type anymore, so I can't tell you.
I don't know what that is. I'm throwing it down. I don't know what that is. Oh gosh. Oh. Wet dog or top banana.
Oh, be a wet dog. You deserve it. From all the good beans you've gotten. Trying to escape it. Full screen him.
Oh. Dude, that one is so bad. Dude, that one is so rough. Oh my gosh. Like,
I wish you wouldn't have went off screen because we couldn't see the reaction, Like, oh man, what was it like? That's burnt rubber. Burnt rubber or licorice.
Oh gosh.
They're both bad.
I know. I don't think
Eat the white one. Eat the white one instead. Yeah, because you're like, it's burnt rubber.
Yeah, but I think so. If I gotta think, I think this white one is either toasted marshmallow or stink bug, but I don't. It's just white. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well then that's the option there. Just fucking toss it in there. What's the worst that could happen?
I mean, like you said, the black, either one's gonna be bad. I mean,
all right.
It's either burnt rubber or licorice.
All right. Hopefully it's burnt rubber. It's probably licorice.
Like it burns. Like, dude, I legit, like,
it's like burnt rubber or it burns your tongue. Which one is it?
like it tastes like burnt plastic, but that shit like legit tasted like it burned my tongue. Like it tasted like a burnt, like a small tire doing a burnout on my tongue. Like that's exactly what it tasted.
All right, fair. All right. That's it for the Eat the Beans. I feel like the Rose. I don't know. Man, like that first one, if I didn't know any better, I would think that that was not a genuine reaction, with the first being the because you just went off screen. You're like, it's so bad. Gross. Yeah.
Nah, because I was trying to act.
Oh my goodness. I just
Dude, wet
what I want one day is just Theros who just his whole dinner to just come up in a plastic bag. I'd be like, fuck yes, finally. He knows what it's like.
I will say I'm not the throwing up type. Like I will. My bad reactions are like my body is rejecting it. Like when I'm coughing. So like when I'm coughing, like my body is just like vehemently rejecting like whatever I'm trying to consume. But like I make sure, like even when I did drink back in the day, or if I would get sick or whatever, the only way I would throw up is if I made myself throw up. Like I was one of those
Gotcha.
I did not want to throw up by any means necessary. So yeah, on this I will not. I won't. I will make sure I will not throw up, but I will have a couple of bad cough episodes.
Yeah, man. Me personally, if I smell something that I don't like, I start gagging, dude. And you never know that shit might that shit might just might come up, dude. I don't know what it is. All right, so let's get into our UFC news and fight announcements for this week. We're going to start off with a fun one, dude. We've got Chase the Dream Hooper taking on Alexander the Great Hernandez. This is going to be set for UFC 319 in Chicago. What's your immediate thoughts on this one, man?
Dude, the worst part is like my tongue is like legit burning right now. Like no bullshit. Like my tongue is like legit burning right now. Like I have to take a sip of this water because I just drank all my Gatorade. But yeah, like my shit is legit burning right now from that burnt rubber.
Hopefully you're not like allergic to anything in the bean.
No,
D-Rose gonna wake up with a fat tongue in the morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, I at least hope not. I mean, I think we're good, but yeah, like I don't know if it's just the name got it stuck in my head now, and now I'm just feeling it. Yeah, it's weird, but I do think, hey, this is a good fight, good matchmaking. I think perfect matchmaking for Chase Hooper. You know, as far as coming up, he doesn't need to fight anybody in the top 15. You know, right at this moment. But I still think in terms of fighting somebody who has a lot of UFC experience, somebody who can give him a test, but I also think somebody who he should be able to beat as well. So I think it's a good fight.
Yeah, indeed. I agree, man. I don't know if we see an early Chase Hooper finish, even though that's what I'm usually on, but I wouldn't mind seeing like a round 2, round 3 sub for Chase Hooper here. How about you?
I told you I should have bet it when it happened last time, but I would not be surprised to see a decision either because Alexander Hernandez does seem to last a little bit longer in the fights now, and even if he's win, lose or draw, he hasn't really had even in his wins too many knockouts here lately.
Yeah.
So
it is a lightweight, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, he looks like he's been trying to reserve himself to make sure he can go the distance. Something that plagued him early in his career.
Yeah, man. So moving on, it looks like UFC has convinced Joel Alvarez to stay at 155, dude, because I know after, he pulled out of his last fight, he, like he said, that he was done like with 155. So it's probably like weight cut related, but looks like UFC convinced him to stay, and he is getting matched up with an absolute cakewalk, dude. I believe Joel Alvarez should be like a -400, 500 favorite here. So if he's not, when this fight happens, dude, probably going to be putting at least $50 on Joel Alvarez to knock out Grant Dawson, man. What's your thoughts on that for this UFC 108 August 2nd fight?
I mean, honestly, that's really interesting matchmaking just because I think either one can win the fight. I mean, I can very well see Grant Dawson getting a hold of Joel Alvarez, taking him down. We know Grant Dawson has good wrestling, man. And, if there's one thing that he can do, he can, once he gets the fights down to the ground, the guys normally don't get up once he's in those control positions. And I think for, Joel Alvarez, he's a guy that, big guy, obviously, like you said, he could move up to welterweight, but he's staying down at lightweight for the time being. He could land a big knockout blow, but man, we saw how Armin Tsarukyan was able to get him out of there. American Top Team, another guy, Grant Dawson, another guy that trained in American Top Team as well. Maybe they can get a little bit of that game plan into Grant Dawson's game plan. Who knows? But I think honestly, if Grant Dawson's the dog in that fight, I think I'd have to take Dawson.
Yeah, fucking Bobby Green fucking knocks you out like that. Fucking Joe Alvarez is gonna fucking demolish him. That's just my opinion. Anyway, that's TJ Dillashaw's career. We'll move on. We got an interesting one here, dude. We got one that I don't think anyone on earth would have asked for, but it is Edson Barboza first, Jakar Close. This is at featherweight, UFC 319 in Chicago, August 16th. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, weird to see Jakar Close moving down to featherweight. That's another thing as well. He's been fighting a lightweight here in the last couple of fights, and he's had pretty decent power at lightweight as well. And he's a little bit older in his career now too. What is he, 36, 37? So it's not like he's getting younger by any means, So I don't know the weight cut's going to be any easier. Not that he looked like he had the most physique at 155, but I would have to imagine as you're getting older, that weight cut is not going to be any easier. But that's a potentially good matchup, and what could be that could be a good fight.
All right. We have. Oh yeah, dude. What's your thoughts on this? Eric Nissick in a interview said recently that he doesn't think, or how something about like the UFC. I don't know. I'll just read this. Francis Ngannou's coach states, "Where does his motivation come from now? It's not about money anymore. It's about competition, and the best competition is in the UFC." So it seems like Francis kind of wants to come back to the UFC. Do you think UFC is open to having Francis back in the UFC?
No, because Dana was asked this after the fights, and he said that he wouldn't be interested in it by any means. At the leave of Francis, Dana was pretty adamant at that point when he said he never wanted to do business with Francis again. He was asked this weekend again, and he doubled down on it and said no. From what I heard, I think I heard Ariel Helwani say that Francis only has one more fight on his PFL deal, so if he does go and fight in PFL, he has one more fight. He can get out of there and potentially, I would say that's probably where Eric Nissick would want him to be. But I couldn't see Dana going back on his word. Even though, we've seen him do stuff like that before, but he seemed very adamant about not doing business with Francis again.
Fair enough, dude. Fair enough. So I guess we kind of talked about that already. Let's see here if anything else. Oh yeah, dude. So this is some interesting news that we have here. Let me read this too. Diego Lopez put out something on Instagram or Twitter the other day. So Yair Rodriguez has reportedly turned down the fight against Diego Lopez for UFC Noche. Diego Lopez said, calls him out saying, "Hey, Yair Rodriguez, I just found out you got a call from a hunter denying the fight with me at UFC Noche. Where's the guy who was in front of me at the press conference? I want this fight, but I understand Yair has been offered the title shot next, and that's his only focus." What's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks because that's the fight that everybody's been wanting. And I saw a comment where, and maybe it could have been ripped off from somebody. I don't know, but basically I saw something where Yair had said, like, I guess basically it's more. Long story short, the fight between them was more personal than business when it comes to fighting in the UFC versus fighting in the streets. Like, basically, he would fight him in the streets before he would fight him in the octagon, or something to that extent. It could have been a fake quote. I'm not quite sure, but if it's something like that, man, that would really, that would really suck because you were the one who kind of stoked the flames of that beef.
Yeah.
calling calling Diego an asshole up there, and then hey, Diego wants to follow up on that, and now you're not doing it. It just seems kind of weird.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Manel Cop injured once again. I know that's not too surprising to you. And Antoine wants to know if he'll ever fight for the belt.
I mean, it depends on what happens here in his next fight. Truthfully, I think with the streak that he's on, the way, and obviously Bruno Silva did just get finished this past weekend as well. So is that win aging well for Cop? No, but I just think in terms of with them not having much contenders, I still think if he wins one more fight, he fights for the title next.
Yeah, and just now saw the comment. I don't see it in here, so I'll just pull up the comment from Derek. Prayers for Ben Askren. Yeah, Ben Askren in the hospital. D Rose, have you seen that? Like apparently he has a pretty bad staph infection and maybe like pneumonia as well. So he's in pretty serious shape in the hospital. So prayers for Ben Askren. Hopefully he gets better soon. Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely prayers for him. I think it actually happened. I thought I might have mentioned it Saturday, or I might not have. I wasn't quite sure, but I got the news from like an ESPN alert on Saturday. So I'm hoping that I know it's been a little bit since that's happened. Hopefully everything's gone well for him. Definitely prayers to him, man. And that's crazy because I believe that his wife said in the tweet that he was unresponsive for maybe a day or two as well. So that's a real bad case, man. And I've seen some of those cases of pneumonia go from bad to worse real quick. So, prayers to him and his family.
Yeah, man, for sure. Prayers to Antoine. So, yeah, hopefully Ben Askren gets well. Yeah, the funky one. But anyway, me and D Rose talked about Josh Van versus Brandon Royval for UFC 317. That's going to be a fun one. I believe that's June 28th, D Rose. So we only got to wait till the end of the month. Another fun one here. We've got UFC 319, Jared Cannonier versus MVP Michael Venom Page, rumored for UFC Chicago. What's your thoughts on this one? Looks like, MVP wanting to, stay up at 185 a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think at this point, MVP's is kind of doing like the I'm trying to think of the term, but almost kind of like cowboy run, just kind of just going up and down divisions, just kind of fighting. Who can I make a fun fight with, and just kind of picking fights like that now. Because I think if there's a chance that he had beaten Ian Gary, I think there's a chance that he could have probably fought for the title, just because I think MVP would have had that much momentum. I think he's at a point now to where he had the fight against Shar his last fight and got the win. I mean,
I look like Kevin Hart, dude. I've never seen that until right now. I was like, what?
Not too far off, to be honest. Not too far off. That's actually crazy. I never thought about that before.
Me either. I've never seen that, but he said it, and then I looked at it, and I'm like, that's the face that Kevin Hart does make, though.
Yeah, that is crazy. Damn, Kevin Hart. That's nuts. But fun fight.
Yeah. So it looks like Netflix seems to be. Okay, no, that's the fucking Dana White bullshit with the boxing match. So here we go. We got another fun one, dude, for UFC 319. We got Brian Battle versus Nursultan Rizaboev for UFC 319 in Chicago, and this is going to be at middleweight. So maybe UFC had an issue with Brian Battle missing all that weight against Randy Brown in his last fight, and they're like, hey, you cut a lot of weight to go down to 170, and you always look like shit, man. Maybe you need to take a fight up at 185, but it's against someone that also doesn't really want to fight at 185 in Nursultan Rizaboev. So what's your thoughts on this fight, man?
Yeah, I think, middleweight, it did kind of shock me there for a second, but as you pointed out, he missed weight against Randy Brown, and I believe he missed weight against Gabe Green as well, right? So yeah, I believe he's had a couple weight misses now down at 170 when I thought that he could have maybe had some pretty good momentum down at 170. He just can't seem to make the weight right. So it does make sense to move him up to middleweight. And against Ruziboyev, who could be a tough opponent, but I actually think it's a very winnable fight for Brian Battle as well. I think Ruziboyev, he leaves openings. I don't think he's the greatest in the world. Where I think Brian Battle may have a chance to get him out of there as well. I know Ruziboyev is tough, but Brian Battle, he's got some big power in his hands when he decides to use it.
Yeah, indeed. Prayers for me to hit the lottery so I don't have to work anymore. Prayers for Dave to hit the lottery, I guess. He doesn't like it.
If we pray on it for you, Dave, you got to come back with some splits, man. Come on, I need a percentage.
All right. With that being said, Yuri Prochazka was offered a title shot, likely to face Magomed Ankalaev for his 4th title shot. Do you support this? Expected to return. Alex Pereira is expected to return in winter 2025. So it looks like Alex Pereira isn't ready to have a title shot next. So it looks like UFC has offered it to Yuri Prochazka. What's your thoughts on Magomed versus Yuri if this is true?
I don't know. To me, it's almost kind of like because I did see a thing I heard Kamaru Usman's interview earlier, and I don't know why one of the guys asked him, but one of the guys asked him that, Yuri turned down the title shot because he was studying for, he's wow. But said that Yuri was studying for college, and I guess he was, going to turn down the fight. But I think,
I think that was for International Fight Week.
Right, but I think for him having as many title fights as he's had already, man, it's just like you don't want to turn it down.
Yeah.
But if he loses another one, it's like, how many more can we give you?
What's kind of more like what would be an even odder situation would be if he won. And then it's like, what if Alex wins? I mean, what happens when Alex wins? Are we going to do Yuri versus Alex 3? We don't need this, So at the same time, it's like, I love me some Yuri Prochazka. I do hope he fucking beats Ankalaev, but I don't really know what happens after that. And then the last bit of news that I think we have is Michel Pereira versus other half of the dump truck driver, CDL license holder, Marco Tulio, dude. What's your thoughts on this fight, dude? It's a 185, and it's going to be in Shanghai, August 23rd.
This is a good fight. I mean, obviously Michel Pereira absolutely stunk up the bed in his last fight, but dude, Marco Tulio, I mean, he brings the heat, man. And I think he could potentially bring a good fight out of Michel Pereira, or Michel Pereira this falls under the pressure. Just because, man, Marco Tulio, power, precision, he's relentless with his pressure. Good chin on him as well.
He drives the dump truck,
Yeah, no, that he does. that he does. I haven't really paid attention like that to him. I guess I always think about it in terms of dudes. I always think about OSP's probably got the crown.
No. He's the how do I say this? He's the driver of the dump truck. He's dating Norma Dumont. There you go.
Yes. Okay, now it makes sense. I was not aware of that, but now it all comes together now. But yeah, hey, even more motivation for him to go in there and put out Michel Pereira.
Yeah, maybe, dude. So that was all the news that I have for this weekend. Do you have anything that I didn't get to, D-Rose?
No. We pretty much got to everything.
All right, so let's get into the fights for this upcoming weekend. Let me share my screen once more since I stopped sharing it. Let's see. This one, I believe. Yeah, this one. and then we'll switch to the other one to make our picks. So this upcoming weekend, let me make sure we are sharing. Yeah, we are indeed. This upcoming weekend, Saturday, June 14th, prelims start at 7 p.m. East Coast time. So going to be a late fight card. The fights are going to be taking place in the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. 13 fights to go over and break down and happening this weekend. Hopefully, it is main evented by the Nigerian Nightmare Kamaru Usman taking on New Mansa Joaquin Buckley. Co-main event, I'm sorry, you guys, is Thug Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Fear, the Maverick. Feature fight of the night is Edmund, the Golden Boy Shabazian, taking on Andre. I call him the Russian since he has like a communist tattoo on his stomach. But Andre Petrovsky. We got Cody No Love Garbrandt taking on Hani Barcelos. We've got D-Rose's favorite fighter to put all of his money on, Cody Brundage, taking on Mansour Abdul Malik. We've got Atomic Alonzo Minifield, taking on Umar C. We've got the rematch that never happened because herpes happened. We've got Paul Craig taking on the herpes haver, Adolfo Walado. We have Michael the Maverick Chiesa taking on the old piece of leather, the old bootstrap, Court the Crusher McGee. In probably this weekend, we're going to see the biggest favorite we've seen in the UFC when we see Malcolm, the Machine Wellmaker, take on UFC vet returning for his second stint in the UFC, Chris Solis Moutinho. And then we also have Cody Durden taking on Jose Ochoa. We have Ricky Simone taking on Cameron Smotherman. Good to see Ricky Simone got a fight booked because I know he had a few fall out there. We have the Fresh Prince, Phil Rowe, taking on Angelusa. And then short notice for Vanessa Demopoulos as she is taking on Jamie Lynn Horth. Few fights that fell off this card were Jamie Lynn Horth versus Teresa Bleda. Alexander Volkov versus Jelton Almeida was going to be on here. I didn't know that. But Ricky Simone was going to take on Charles Jourdain, and Charles Jourdain fell out. That was going to be a banger this weekend, D-Rose. But we have 13 fights to break down and go over. So I guess, I know you've been pretty excited about this card as a whole, D-Rose. So give me your grade on it, A to F, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think this card, it's a banger of a card, man. As I told you, it's, for a TV card, it's one of the better cards of the year so far, just in terms of, I think, a lot of potential firework matchups, firework finishes. I think for a TV card, man, I mean, I think you got to go, I mean, at least no worse than a B plus. But I'm going to say B plus, A minus range, but I'm going to say B plus because, as you said, that co-main event does bring it down just a smidge. There's maybe, there's like 2 slow fights on here. But other than that, I think this fight card could potentially deliver a lot of bangers. So I'm going to say B plus here. Awesome card.
Yeah, and if you're in the building, go say what's up to Antoine. He's going to be in section 201, row J, seat 5. I don't know if you want to be putting all that out there, Antoine, but, the people are going to know where you are at. Austin, you should have offloaded this thing long ago. Don't say that. We've got time. We've got time. How's Kamaru's knees still working? I don't know, man. Let's get into the fights for this weekend, though. First fight of the night, we have Little Monster, Vanessa Demopoulos, taking on Jamie Lynn Horth. The tell of the tape for this one is Vanessa Demopoulos is 11-7 overall out of her last 5 fights. She has 2 wins and 3 losses. She is 5'2", 59-inch reach, and fights at a Fight Ready. Jamie Lynn Horth, on the other hand, is 7-2 overall out of her last 5 fights, 3 wins and 2 losses. 35 years old, 5'7", and a 66-inch reach. Yeah, D-Rose, this fight's going to be happening at 125 pounds. So, as I said, short notice for Vanessa Demopoulos. I'm not wasting any time here. Jamie Lynn Horth is the bigger fighter here. She's definitely more aggressive, and Vanessa Demopoulos plays off her back way too much. So this should be an easy decision win for Jamie Lynn Horth. I think she has more power and she's more physical, can at least control Vanessa Demopoulos here. So odds for the fight are Jamie Lynn Horth minus 575. So that's, okay. Vanessa Demopoulos 425. The underdog over under is 2.5. The over is minus 395. The under is plus 280. All right, D-Rose, which way are you going, man?
I kind of like the way you looked at the line, because I said the same thing. I was like, man, why is this line as big as it is? Like, am I missing something? Like, I mean, I know Vanessa Demopoulos is not the best fighter in the world, and I didn't realize she was taking it on short notice until you just mentioned it. So I know that has a little bit to do with it, but Vanessa Demopoulos is not that bad to be a plus whatever. I
think she's just real small, and it's a 125. So
right, and I get that part too when taking it on short notice. But let's not act like Jamie Lynn Horth is a world beater. I mean, she did get kind of dominated by Miranda Maverick in her last fight. I'm looking on Bet ESPN right now, and dude, she's a minus 650. Like,
Jesus Christ, dude.
What? Like, that's absolutely crazy. The betting line is almost wanting to make me pick against her. Conventional wisdom, pick Jamie Lynn Horth by decision, but there's no way I'm putting this on any type of bet whatsoever.
Yeah, for me, it's a easy, dude. It's Jamie Lynn Horth 3 or decision. I think it's a pretty safe play, but what's it going to be like? Minus 250? Like it's going to be like fucking Azamat fucking KO last week. It's probably going to hit, but what's it really going to add?
True.
Yeah. So me and you are on Jamie Lynn Horth via decision.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to the next one, where we have the Fresh Prince Phil Rowe taking on the Last Ninja Angelusa. So Phil Rowe is 10-5 overall. Out of his last 5 fights, 3 wins and 2 losses. Those 2 losses were to Neil Magny via split decision and Jake Matthews via unanimous decision. Phil Rowe is 34 years old, 6'3" and an 80.5-inch reach, while Angelusa, the Last Ninja, is 10-4 overall. Out of his last 5 fights, 2 wins, 1. You know what? He is 3 losses and 2 wins out of his last 5 fights. Do you remember this, D-Rose? Like when he got poked by fucking Brian Battle, was like complaining that he couldn't see, and then like literally 10 seconds later was like fucking trying to fight him after the fight.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so he was just getting cooked in that fight, and then he did lose a decision to Gabriel Bonfim. Anyway, Angelusa is 31 years old, 5'10", and a 74-inch reach. Currently, odds for the fight are plus 110 Phil Rowe. Angelusa is minus 130, the favorite. Over under is 2.5 here. The over is minus 280. The under is plus 210. Yeah, D-Rose, I don't think Angelusa is UFC level, if I'm going to be honest. I think he is just barely cutting by, dude. It's like going life and death with fucking Reese McKee, and that being one of your only fucking UFC wins is terrible. And, beating AJ Fletcher, also no longer in the UFC, not a good look, man. It's just Phil Rowe is a lot taller and longer. He's got a solid jab, and I think he can hold Angelusa up against the fence a lot of this fight, man. And he, unlike Reese McKee, I think fucking Phil Rowe has the gas tank to go all 3 rounds cleanly. And if he gets this down, I think he's got all of the control upside of Angelusa. The thing is, on the other side, Phil Rowe, if he gets taken down, he will play off his back because he is a black belt and he will try to use that on the ground. It's hard to get a submission from your back in the UFC, especially at, fucking men's 170. So with that being said, give me Phil Rowe to, as the dog, to win this fight via decision. Just control, holding Angelusa up against the cage, jabbing him up when he's at range. Phil Rowe via decision. Which way are you going here, D-Rose?
Yeah, to hear Phil Rowe as the dog is actually surprising to me. I'm actually trying to find the line right now because I'm willing to put money on that. I mean, I know he's a slight dog, but But
Plus
yeah,
110 on DraftKings, and that means on FanDuel
he's
he
plus 106
is
on FanDuel right now. I'm looking at it right now.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, plus 106. I mean, yeah, that's definitely worth betting straight up and putting in a parlay, in my opinion. I mean, I think he's got every bit of chance to win this fight, and I think he does win the fight. I think this fight can look pretty similar to how it did with Brian Battle and Angelusa. I'm not going to say that Phil Rowe is going to put it on him that bad. But I do think that Phil Rowe, he's got the reach. He's going to be the much bigger guy. Like let's just be honest
like
here.
way bigger.
And he, he's lost 2 fights against good fighters in the UFC, 2 very well tested guys. I don't think Angelusa has the wrestling that neither Neil Magny nor Jake Matthews possess to be able to control Phil Rowe. And I think Phil Rowe use his jab, use his range, keep Angelusa at distance, because Angelusa, I will say, he's got a good chin. He's hard to hurt. So I don't think Phil Rowe is going to be able to finish him, but I think Phil Rowe by decision is the way to go.
Hell yeah. I'm glad me and D-Rose both on the dog in the Fresh Prince Phil Rowe this week. Dave just saw the lineup for UFC X, and this year it's loaded. Yeah, there's a lot of good fighters. I saw Meatball Molly McCann's going to be there, and I immediately was like, why? But it is what it is. Shout out Meatball Molly McCann. Just don't break her arm if you go see her, because she just has a habit of getting her arm broken. So moving on, we do have this fight was made today, D-Rose, so done no research on this, but with that being said, I don't need to, man. I know what happens here. One is an actual UFC level fighter, as where we've seen Cameron Smotherman look okay, and then this Surrey City loss was expected from my end. I don't know if you picked Cameron Smotherman here or if you picked Surrey City there, but to me, it seems like he's a really young fighter, and he's 27, so I guess he is young. He just doesn't seem UFC level yet, in my opinion, but he's already 12-5 at 27 years old, as Cameron Smotherman is. So the babyface killer, as I said, 12-5 overall out of his last 5 fights, 4 wins, 1 loss. Lost his last one to Surrey City, 27 years old, 5'9", 69-inch reach, while Ricky Simone is 26-1 overall out of his last 5 fights. He is 2 wins and 3 losses. And man, I believe before his last fight, UFC was kind of trying to, give Ricky Simone his walking papers, dude. He had lost 3 in a row. They gave him 1 more against Javid Basharat, trying to come back off of him just getting outclassed for fucking 3 rounds, dude. And he comes out there and smokes Javid Basharat in the first round, dude. One of the most vicious KOs we've seen in a while, and that was 3 months ago. Ricky Simone is 32 years old, 5'6", and a 69-inch reach. Yeah, for me here, D-Rose, I just think Ricky Simone is the better UFC level fighter. I've seen more out of him. I know what we get out of him. And I just think it's just wrestling, control, pressure all 3 rounds. Just every Ricky Simone fight that he doesn't get a finish. Give me Ricky Simone to win this fight via decision. I don't think we have odds at all here. Do you see any?
No, because on FanDuel, they're actually still showing Charles Jourdain versus Ricky Simone.
Yeah, I don't have any here yet either. But which way are you going here, man?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Just in terms of Cameron Smotherman being just green. You can see there's some potential there, but that Surrey City loss really just let me know that I picked Cameron Smotherman going into that fight too, but it was just like he was having such a rough time walking Surrey City down. Like Surrey City was just popping him with the jab and just using footwork walking around him, and it just looked like Cameron Smotherman just struggled with closing the range, and he kept kind of chasing more than cutting him off, and was just getting punished for it with the jab, time and time again. Left the fight. Not going to say he had swollen eyes and stuff, but he was pretty bloody from the nose. He was getting busted up pretty good.
It was a month ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Ricky Simone, UFC vet, fought a lot of tough competition. He's had some tough losses against some tough competition, but he's also had some good wins as well. And that win against Basharat, man, I mean, as you said, back against the wall, potentially getting pink papers if he loses that fight, and comes up with, I mean, I think right now, I think it's between Ricky Simone, Ju Sung Yu, and Mauricio Hufi, who has the knockout of the year. Because, dude, that overhand that he landed on Basharat was absolutely sick. Good bounce back win for him. I think that's a good momentum shot for him here. I think Ricky Simone by decision here is the way to go.
All right, me and Rose agree. Ricky Simone via decision. Up next, we do have a fun one. The hometown guy, custom made Cody Durden, is 17-7-1 overall out of his last 5 fights, 2 wins and 3 losses. The losses were to Josh Van, which, future champion at this point, 5 months ago. So Cody Durden has taken some time off. He did choke out Matt Schnell. He did lose to Bruno Silva, but that was a fucking war, dude. And he did hurt Bruno Silva early in that fight. Had a chance to get him out of there, and he did lose to Tagir Uzbekov via rear naked choke and Jake Hadley via decision in Nashville. I was at that fight. Anyway, Cody Durden's 34 years old, 5'7", and a 67-inch reach, while Jose Ochoa is 7-1 overall out of his last 5 fights. 3 wins, 1 disqualification, and his UFC debut was a decision loss to Loner Kavanaugh. He is 24 years old, 5'7", and trains out of Shoot to Box Diego Lima. So, do we need to go any farther about how he fights? Pretty strong forward foot, Muay Thai. Looping punches, front kicks. But if you take him down, he's going to play off his back. And if you do that against custom-made Cody Durden, especially in this fight, D-Rose, with the odds being Cody Durden plus 160, Jose Ochoa minus 192. So Cody Durden is a pretty big dog here. The over-under is 1.5. I'm sorry, the over-under is 2.5 here. The over is minus 130. The under is plus 100. Yeah, man. Jose Ochoa, he's had 1 fight in the UFC against Loner Kavanaugh. That was his first or second fight in the UFC himself, coming off the Contender Series. I believe that was his first fight. So we really don't know how good Loner Kavanaugh is yet, but we know how good custom-made Cody Durden is. He has proven me wrong over and over again, and against someone basically making their UFC debut, because Jose Ochoa fight Loner Kavanaugh that came off the Contender Series, but he didn't even fight on the Contender Series. So this is basically his UFC debut, if you want to look at it like that, against a UFC level fighter at least. So for me, it's no question asked here. Give me Cody Durden to just use his excellent wrestling, just control Jose Ochoa all 3 rounds, because he will spend time on his back training with Shootbox Diego Lima. They all do. Which way are you going here, man?
Yeah, I'll say I did have a little bit of a tough time picking this one. Jose Ochoa, not knowing much about him, just seeing some highlights. I know he's got some pretty decent boxing, for the most part from what I've been able to see. I mean, Loner Kavanaugh, I will say, like, that's not a bad loss, because, I know Loner Kavanaugh still kind of early on in his career, but I thought that Felipe Dos Santos win for him, last fight, I thought he kind of dominated Felipe Dos Santos for the most part in that fight too. And we know Dos Santos to be a pretty good fighter. So, I'd say that's not a bad loss to have as your first loss in the UFC. I think Cody Durden, a lot more battle tested though, fought a lot tougher guys. I just think the big thing for me, Cody Durden, we've seen him get chinned before, man. He gets hurt a lot in his fights. Bruno Silva, dangerous guy, obviously, but Bruno Silva put him out. I think Josh Van had multiple moments to put Cody Durden out, but Josh Van, I think, kind of took his foot off the gas here. I think if Jose can land a big shot there, Cody Durden can be put out. And Cody Durden does fight with a lot of forward pressure, and he can tend to walk into shots at times as well. So I think that's something that if Ochoa can kind of set up the counters here, I think this could be a fight for him to win. I'm going to go Jose Ochoa. Let's go second round knockout.
All right. First one me and D-Rose is split on. Jose Ochoa versus custom-made Cody Durden. I'm on Cody Durden. D-Rose is on Jose Ochoa. Moving on to one of my entries for the fisting of the week. We have Malcolm, the Machine Wellmaker, taking on Chris Moutinho. Soulless Chris Moutinho. I guess that's not his nickname anymore. It's no longer there. Anyway, Malcolm Wellmaker is 9-0. He's out of his last 5 fights, obviously 5-0. We seen him snooze Cameron Simon a month and a week ago. And then 9 months ago on the Contender Series, knocked out that dude in the first round as well. Malcolm Wellmaker is 31 years old, 5'10", and a 71-inch reach, while Chris Moutinho is 14-6 overall. And since he's been cut from the UFC, D-Rose, he went on a 5-fight win streak and all by finishes, D-Rose. So basically just putting the gas on all these regional level guys, and they can't keep up. Chris Moutinho is 32 years old, 5'7", and a 70-inch reach. As I said, this is my entry for fisting of the week. Currently odds for the fight, minus 1,800 for Malcolm Wellmaker, plus 1,000 for Chris Moutinho. Over under here is set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is plus 135. The under 1.5 is minus 175. For me, D-Rose, it's Malcolm Wellmaker. Malcolm Wellmaker, round 1 knockout. So I think the under 1.5 is parlayable here, if I'm going to be honest. So Malcolm Wellmaker, round 1 knockout, my entry for fisting of the week. How about you, man?
Yeah, I just don't see, and I even said, for Wellmaker going in his last fight, I was like, man, he sometimes looks for the counter a little bit. If there's any small criticism I can make of him, he looks for the counter a little bit too much. I think if there's someone who could set up their strikes, they can maybe slip under his counter and counter him. But man, again, Chris Moutinho could come through here and blow the doors off.
No, Antoine.
Whatever.
Not at all.
But man, no, not at all, Antoine. And I just don't see the danger that Chris Moutinho could possess here to really deter Wellmaker, in my opinion. I just don't. And
he got snoozed by Guido Canetti in his second fight, on the feet.
And that was the one for me, because I was pretty big on Moutinho going into that fight too. Guido Canetti was
a huge favorite.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Guido was a sizable dog. He was 40 plus years old at flyweight, because he went down to flyweight. And he ended up getting absolutely snoozed by that dude. Malcolm Wellmaker's gonna make you pay, man. Yeah, I'm going first round knockout for Wellmaker.
Dude, it's I know fucking Chris Moutinho's tough, but dude, I say this every time the Malcolm Wellmaker fights. So the first time I ever watched tape on him, dude, it was tape on his amateur fights where they have shin pads and big ass boxing gloves and headgear, dude. I saw him give multiple people baby deer legs with all that shit on. I was like, dude, this dude has so much power in the amateurs, dude. And when he's got, pro, he's just fucking snoozing fools at this point. So I know Chris Moutinho is tough, but I think he goes down face first in the canvas this weekend. Round 1 knockout. Me and D-Rose both on Malcolm the Machine Wellmaker. D-Rose, I'm going to set this one up, and then I'm going to pass it to you and go grab something to drink. So up next, we have Michael, the Maverick Chiesa, taking on Court, the old leather boot Crusher McGee. Michael Chiesa is 18-7 overall out of his last 5 fights, 3 losses, 2 wins. 3 years ago, lost to Vicente Luque. 3 years ago, lost to Sean Brady. A year ago, lost to Kevin Holland. 9 months ago, beat Tony Ferguson, and 5 months ago, beat Max Griffin, and I definitely picked Max Griffin in that fight. Anyway, Michael Chiesa is 37 years old, 6'1", and a 75.5-inch reach, while Court, the Crusher McGee, is 22-13 overall. Out of his last 5 fights, 2 wins, 3 losses. 3 years ago, win against Ramirez Brahimaj. That's a good look now, but he was kind of ass then. Jeremiah Wells lost 2 years ago, knockout first round, then got snoozed by Matt Brown about not very long later. Alex Morono lost the decision in that, but man, they both look like shit in that fight. And then he did beat Tim Means 7 months ago via neck crank, but that's also 40-year-old Tim Means. So what do you even say at that point? Court McGee is 40 years old, 5'11", and a 75-inch reach. Yeah, D-Rose, teed up. Odds for the fight are Michael Chiesa minus 345, your favorite, and Court McGee is plus 275, the underdog. Over under here is 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 180. The under is plus 140. All right, man. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I will say for the betting line, that betting line is definitely way too high. I mean, I do think that Michael Chiesa is the favorite for a reason. I think he's, technically the younger of the two. Court McGee, hasn't had too much of luck in terms of his wins. Michael Chiesa, has looked a little bit better in his last few performances. I do think that, Michael Chiesa is still crazy to look at that dude and say, how on God's green earth did you ever make 155? Because it says he's listed as 6'1". Like, dude, I swear when he's lined up in the octagon across from guys, like, dude, he looks like he could fight at 185. Like, he looks like he is absolutely massive for the weight class. So for me, I do think that Court McGee's going to have his hands full in terms of the size. I do think that Court McGee's going to have the better striking, but I mean, it does. It's a low bar to clear when you talk about better striking than Michael Chiesa. But I think Chiesa is going to be the bigger guy. I think Chiesa can use his jab. You'll see him jab and try to take that backhand and tie up maybe Court McGee's neck, get him in the clinch, back him up to the fence, and I think that's where you'll see Chiesa shine. I don't think that. I mean, Chiesa is going to look for a sub most certainly. I just think that Court McGee is going to be super tough here. I want to go Chiesa. It's probably going to be a pretty boring fight. Just going to put that out there, but I think Chiesa wins by decision.
Yeah. Keep it short. I pretty much agree with everything that you said. The line's kind of wild. But if we're going to be honest, the only way Michael Chiesa wins is via submission or just dominating, grappling the whole fight. And Court McGee can be dominated in the grappling, especially being the smaller guy here. Court McGee never been submitted, so I don't really think Michael Chiesa is the first one to submit Court McGee. I guess he could, but I really don't think so. I'm with D-Rose. I am on Michael Chiesa to win this fight via submission. Via decision. Sorry. Let's see. Michael Chiesa via decision. And see what you guys are saying in the chat real quick. According to Tapology, Chris is the #1 bantamweight in the state. What state? Massachusetts. Yeah, it's a pretty small state, But I mean, that's up there where, like, I forgot the other dude that trained at the New England Cartel, D-Rose, that is just ass, and everyone's like, he fucking trains with fucking Calvin Cater and like fucking Rob Font, but he was just cheeks as well. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he's in the lighter weight classes. I feel like I know who you're talking about, but I can't.
And it's not Connor Matthews. It's fucking someone else, but he fucking fights the same way, just gets his ass beat.
Yeah, it wasn't Gaston Bolaños, but I know who you're talking. It's like, probably flyweight, bantamweight, something like that. He fights out. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Antoine said he missed tough. I saw the first episode, Antoine, the Thursday after it came out, and I've yet to watch another episode. So I'll catch up one of these days on them all, to be honest. That's what I'm going to do. So up next, we have the STD fight of the evening. We have Paul Craig taking on Rodolfo Herpes Bellato, or Tractor, whichever one you want to call him. But he had herpes last time. It's probably, not translated 100% correctly. Probably some type of like weight cut, fucking sore that he got. I doubt. I mean, it could be herpes, but I mean, I guess technically a cold sore is also a type of herpes. So
I told you last time, I believe, and that's what it was too. It was like mat herpes, like rolling, getting sick off of whatever he contracted from, his rolling mats or whatever. But I believe that's actually what it was the mat herpes. But of course, as you said, it just wasn't portrayed correctly, or at least the way he wanted it to be.
Yeah, it wasn't really translated, but man, it's fun to act like it, though, isn't it?
Oh no! I mean, the truth is fun. The lie or the exaggerated truth is definitely the much more fun route to go.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, Antoine Mitch Raposo. That is it. Yep. Could be it. I'm not 100% sure, but
yeah, no, it's him. Yeah, no,
sounds about right.
I got fooled by in his last fight. I thought he was going to win, and he didn't. So yeah, it was it.
Yep, sounds about right. So moving on, we've got the Bear Jew Paul Craig, 17-9-1 overall out of his last 5 fights. Oh, he is 4 losses and 1 win. He did beat Andre Muniz via ground and pound a year and 10 months ago. I actually cashed on that, D-Rose. I did have a few dollars on Paul Craig TKO round 2 or 3, so proud of myself for that one. Anyway, Paul Craig's 37 years old, 6'3", and a 76-inch reach, while Rodolfo Herpy Bellato is 12-2-1 overall out of his last 5 fights, 4 wins, 1 draw. It was against Jimmy Crute, but Jimmy Crute's got the most draws in UFC history. Rodolfo Bellato is 29 years old, 6'3", and a 77.5-inch reach. D-Rose, did you pick Paul Craig to win this fight when it was first scheduled?
Not a chance on God's green earth would I pick Paul
Hold
Craig.
on. Let's see. When was it scheduled?
About a month and a half ago. You can look all you want. You can go back and look at whatever footage. I will tell you right now, there was nothing
Because I don't, because you were bringing up about how much you aren't a fan of Rodolfo Bellato.
Yeah, because he gets penalized. Paul Craig can't hurt a butterfly with his punches. Like, what do you?
Man.
Yeah, you definitely got the wrong guy.
What fight card was it on?
Yeah, maybe about a month and a half ago or so. This matchup was made, but yeah, no, you won't find it. Yeah, I can save you time. I did not pick Paul Craig to win.
You didn't pick Paul Craig to win.
Yeah,
well,
I can save you some time. You don't have to worry about it.
I thought you did, just because I thought maybe you have the no trust in Rodolfo Bellato. But I know I picked
you trust in him. But again, Paul Craig hurt a lot.
Yeah, but Rodolfo Bellato, I picked Rodolfo Bellato last week, and it mostly because Paul Craig going back up to 205. I don't think there's a chance that Rodolfo Bellato makes 205. He's basically like built like Marvin Vettori, kind of a big guy. He can absorb all the damage in the world, so I don't think it matters what Paul Craig throws at Rodolfo Bellato. I don't think he's got the tools to get him out of there. So with that being said, I think we see round 1, round 2 knockout for Rodolfo Bellato. But if I'm going to be honest, it's probably later on in the round. Once he realizes about 2 minutes in that Paul Craig's throwing everything he's got at him and it don't hurt, Rodolfo Bellato is just going to step on the gas and, crush this fool. Another one of my entries for the fisting of the week is Rodolfo Bellato. Anyway, I assume you're going the same way here.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same way here. Rodolfo Bellato, I won't even waste any time. Again, I don't think Paul Craig doesn't possess the danger to hurt Rodolfo Bellato. My analysis was that Rodolfo Bellato gets hit a lot in his fights, and he got lit up by Ihor Peteria. So let's not.
And Jimmy Crute.
Yeah, and Jimmy Crute as well. And that fight ended up being a draw, and Jimmy Crute ended up kind of taking it to him as well. But again, Jimmy Crute can possess some power in his hands. Paul Craig doesn't. So that's the difference. So I think Rodolfo Bellato gets the first round knockout.
Yeah. Rodolfo Bellato minus 395, the favorite. Paul Craig plus 310. The underdog over unders 1.5. The over 1.5 minus 125. The under minus 105. They give us no plus money either way there, D-Rose. Bunch of hoes.
Terrible.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got Alonzo Minifield taking on Umar C. This is one that I think I care the least about this weekend, D-Rose. But Atomic Alonzo Minifield, 16-5-1 overall out of his last 5 fights, 3 wins, 2 losses. Win over Julius Walker. That was a close fight, though. Can't wait for Julius Walker. He's fighting a fucking can his next fight, dude. I forgot who it is, but he's going to crush that dude. Anyway, lost to Azamat Murzakanov. Lost Carlos Ulberg. He did beat Dustin Jacoby via decision and Jimmy Crute via guillotine. Damn. Alonzo is pretty active, yeah? 5 fights in a year, basically. Like, he fucking stays pretty active. Anyway, 37 years old, 6 foot, 76-inch reach, while Umar C is 11-0, undefeated, 29 years old, 6'4", and an 83-inch reach. Currently, odds for the fight. Holy fucking shit. Umar C minus 700, Alonzo Minifield plus 500. The over-under here is 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 160. The under 1.5 is plus 124. Yeah, I'm picking Umar C, but I don't think that he should be a minus 700 favorite. Basically, Alonzo, if he wants to win if he wants to win any fight, he's got to land a big shot or have enough power and control time to ride out the decision. The thing is here, he's going to be outsized by quite a bit. He's going to be the much shorter guy. Umar C is going to be the taller, longer guy, and he has the better wrestling here. So I don't really see Alonzo Menifield's path to victory if he doesn't, knock this dude out cold. And he does have the power to knock Umar C out cold. He has the fucking power to knock out anyone cold, but he's getting a little bit older, 37. I don't really know where Alonzo Menifield's training now, D-Rose, because I know he was at Fortis for a little bit, and then he was up there with like Pat Barry. And then in his last fight, he had like just someone else in his fucking corner. So I don't know what all's left of Alonzo Menifield at this point. He was a good fighter, but I think at this point, they're just going to use him as stepping stone for the most part. So with that being said, give me Umar C to win this fight. Let's go via decision, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw like a round 2, round 3 submission here, if I'm going to be honest. I think Umar C, he's got a few subs there. Tukos, TKO, and yeah, this is before the UFC though. So I'm going to Umar C via decision, but once again, I don't hate the late sub props. What about you, man?
Man, this is one that I'm not going to lie. I've actually went back and forth with a couple times. I don't think, this is another fight on this card to where, the bet line does not match what I think the result of the fight could potentially be. I mean, I do think that Umar C, he obviously does have some talent, and he's going to be the much bigger guy, between the two. I think when they face off, you're going to see that, Umar C is going to be a pretty sizable, light heavyweight compared to Alonzo Menifield. But I still think Alonzo Menifield, I mean, the dude's built like an absolute tank. I mean, he's got, better wrestling now. I do think a big thing for Alonzo Menifield is that he does take more shots now, and like he gets hurt a lot easier than I guess what we typically expect to see from Alonzo Menifield. So I think that's a big thing for him. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like Alonzo Menifield this weekend. I'm not gonna lie. I do think that he's got a couple. Umar C's got a couple of decent wins in the UFC right now, but still pretty inexperienced. I do have control over the pick champ, so whether that ends up in the pick champ or not, we'll see. But man, that's and maybe I'm just letting the betting line influence the way I think about this fight. I just think that Alonzo Menifield is very battle tested, and I think for C to be that big of a favorite is just crazy in my opinion.
So you're picking Alonzo Menifield?
Yes, Alonzo Menifield. I'm gonna go by. I think this will be a boring fight too, but I'm gonna go by decision.
All right. If y'all were Paul, would you still fight Rodolfo Blood? Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't really know who else fucking Paul Craig is gonna fight. Do you think C has potential ranking? Yeah, I think so. He's at 205, and not a lot of heavy wrestlers at 205. The reach is crazy. Yeah. So moving on. Me and Dero split on that one. Here we go, man. Your favorite fight to bet on, favorite fighter to bet on in the UFC. His man, Cody Brundage.
I can hear the fire burning in the background. It's just my money burning. That's exactly what I hear and smell right now. Just cash, just straight burning.
All right, so let's get into it. Cody Brundage, 11-6 overall. He's going to be taking on Mansour Abdul Malik, who is 8-0. Cody Brundage, out of his last 5 fights, he is 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 I guess disqualification, no contest, whatever you want to call it, against Judo Thunder. Anyway, Cody Brundage, 31 years old, 6 foot, and a 72-inch reach, while Mansour Abdul Malik, 8-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Nick Klein was his last fight 3 months ago, where he did get stumbled a little bit. What he like a spinning back elbow, dude, and kind of like fucking rolled back a little bit, like, oh shit.
He got the chicken leg.
Shit. Yeah, so somebody can hurt me. That's the first time ever. Yeah, so But he is an absolute fucking powerhouse horse, if you will. 27 years old, 6'2", and a 79.5-inch reach. The reach advantage here is crazy for fucking 185, dude. Cody Brundage, 72-inch reach, so Mansour going to have a 7.5-inch reach advantage over Cody Brundage. And, dude, personally, I think the way this goes, just like every other Cody Brundage fight, it's going to go under because Mansour just has the power to come out there and just stick this fool. Cody Brundage might get knocked out by a jab from Mansour Abdul-Malik. So, give me Mansour Abdul-Malik round 1 knockout. How about you, D-Rose?
Yeah, I do think that, as you pointed out, Mansour Abdul-Malik, he got hit up a little bit in that Klein fight. He got wobbled a little bit, but one thing I'll give him credit for, he got wobbled in that fight, but never let it deter him. You know what I mean? I think that's a good sign for him that, he got lit up a little bit. He got tested when he was the overwhelming favorite. I mean, what was he? Every bit of minus 800, 900.
Like 1,000, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. He was every bit of that high of a favorite going into that fight. He got tested, got hurt, but was able to still stay resilient, stay composed within himself, land the shots that he needed, and got the knockout. I do think that Cody Brundage can break a tough test, man. I mean, he's talented. I picked him in a couple of fights in the past. Again, he's burned me multiple times, so I'm not betting this fight because I'm going to say that Mansour Abdul-Malik should get the first round knockout. I would not be surprised if Cody Brundage ended up going in here, getting Mansour Abdul-Malik down to the ground, wearing him out, and maybe getting like a ground and pound in round 2. Like, I would not be surprised. But what should happen, Mansour Abdul-Malik, the stronger guy, bigger guy, I think he shucks off a few of the takedown attempts, maybe gets a little bit of a ground and pound, or maybe just lands a big shot and gets Cody Brundage out of there. Let's go Mansour Abdul-Malik, first round knockout.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think he has him, curling up on the side of the octagon, like, don't hit me no more, please. And then just wait for the ref to stop it. Do you think they're really trying to get Cody out of there? He was really happy when he won it. Dude, I think UFC thinks the same thing that we think about Cody Brundage. What a dork. I mean, okay. Just all right. He can be here.
It's like, okay, a guy who's going to beat him will probably have a pretty good highlight reel. And the guy that loses to him will probably end up losing in one of the goofiest ways. So, hey, it'll at least make a decent highlight.
Yeah, something like that. Moving on. We have the second no love we've had in 2 weeks. Cody, no love Garbrandt taking on Hayani Barcelos. You think this fight happens, D-Rose?
I don't see why I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think both these fighters are like notoriously known for fucking pulling out of fights, yeah?
Not for the week though. I think as long as, because it looks like they made, media day and stuff like that as well. So, especially for Cody Garbrandt, I think that's a big thing for him as well. But yeah, usually when they make it to the week of the fight is when they're good. Usually it's like a couple weeks out. But I think once they clear out that 2-3 week period before fight week, I think they're typically in good shape.
All right. So with that being said, let's get into it. Cody, no love Garbrandt, 14-6 overall out of his last 5 fights, 3 losses, 2 wins. 4 years ago, lost to Rob Font. 3 years ago, lost to Kai Kara-France at 125. He beat Trevin Jones, which, okay. Beat Brian Kelleher a year ago, okay. And then lost to Davison Figueroa a year ago, which, he's pretty okay up at 135. Anyway, Cody Garbrandt, 33 years old, 5'8" and a 65.5-inch reach, while Hani Barcelos, 19-5 overall out of his last 5 fights. Beat Trevin Jones, which so did Cody Garbrandt, lost to Umar Nurmagomedov, lost to Kyler Phillips, beat Christian Quinones, and this one right here in his last fight, man, probably one of the biggest underdogs in UFC history, came through and won against Peyton Talbot 4 months ago. Shocked the world, shocked all of us, D-Rose. He is 38 years old, 5'7" and a 67-inch reach. And how I'm going to start off with this fight, breaking it down, is I don't want to pick either one of these to win. I'm going to be honest. I've done no research on this fight because I've seen both these fighters fight a ton of times, and I know exactly how they fight, and nothing has changed out of any times they've ever fought. Cody No Love going to come in here with, short, crisp boxing, going to throw some combinations, stuff to take downs when he can. But if you kind of just look back at who he's fighting, dude, he's not really fighting any wrestlers for the most part. As where Hany Barcelos, on the other hand, is for sure the better wrestler here. He was on the, I think, Brazilian national team, something like that. And he does show that he has that wrestling skill. The Peyton Talbot fight was an eye-opener in the last fight, because Peyton Talbot, tall kid, good at stuffing takedowns, and Hany Barcelos was able to take him down, control him with ease, no issue there. I don't think I've seen better skill out of Hany Barcelos recently to tell me that he has more, I guess, left in the tank here than I've seen from Cody Garbrandt just come out here and consistently get knocked out or choked out, and he's beaten the bottom level at 135. So give me Hany Barcelos to go out here and wrestle Cody Garbrandt all 3 rounds via decision. How about you, D-Rose?
Yeah, I think, and as you said, pointing out how Figueiredo out wrestled Cody Garbrandt as well. That is one of the things that's a little alarming to me as well, because I was actually pretty big on Cody Garbrandt going into that fight, just because I thought he was going to have the hand speed, and I thought he'd be able to have the footwork to get out of the way of Figgy, where Figgy was able to kind of catch him down pretty easy, pretty concerning. So, and seeing Hany Barcelos, as you said, one of the biggest underdogs in UFC history against Peyton Talbot, and getting the win the way he did, and pretty definitively as well, I'd say. I do think that, man, I'm not going to lie, this has been a really tough fight for me to pick. I don't know why something is just pulling me to say Cody Garbrandt, man. I mean, I think that, Barcelos, you can make the argument that I'm not going to say he's had tougher competition, but he's definitely – Barcelos is battle tested. Let's say that. I do think that Barcelos, he's going to be lacking in the speed. I think Cody Garbrandt, man, just use that jab and stay on the outside, man. Because I think if it comes down to a kickboxing match or a boxing match, Barcelos does have good combinations at times, but I still think that Cody Garbrandt is going to be the faster guy, the bigger guy. Give me Cody Garbrandt here. I'm going to say Barcelos is hard to hurt. I mean, I know Umar knocked him out before, but I'm going to say Cody Garbrandt by decision here. Oh, it's more of a gut than anything, more than how do I really feel? But yeah, for some reason I got Cody here, man.
Odds for that fight plus 170 Cody Garbrandt, Hany Barcelos minus 205. D-Rose on the dog. I'm on the favorite in Hany Barcelos. Moving on to the next one, we've got Edmund, the Golden Boy, Shabazian, taking on Andre Petrovsky. Edmund Shabazian is 14-5 overall, alternating wins and losses, so he should lose next, right? He's 3-2 out of his last 5 fights. Win over Dalshalugi and Bulla. Lost to Fluffy Hernandez, which was given. He beat AJ Dobson a year and 2 months ago. He did lose to Gerald Mearshart 9 months ago, and then he did beat Dylan Budka 3 months ago. Edmund Shabazian is 27 years old, 6'2" and a 75-inch reach, while Andre Petrovsky is 13-3 overall out of his last 5 fights, 2 losses and 3 wins. Lost to Michel Pereira, lost to Jacob Malkoun. I was at that one. Ground strikes after a hard collision is how he lost. In reality, he knocked himself out by headbutting Jacob Malkoun's hip. He did beat Josh Friend via decision. He did beat Dylan Budka via decision, and he did beat Adolfo Vieira via decision in a close fight, to be honest. Anyway, Andre Petrovsky is 34 years old, 6 foot, and a 73-inch reach. I can never pick someone that knocked himself out, D-Rose. I just can't do it. I know if this truly the way this should go is if this gets out of the first round and Andre Petrovsky's like, plus 400, plus 500, you should probably make a live bet on Andre Petrovsky because there's a good chance that Edmund Shabazian is going to fade in the next 2 minutes or so if he gets taken down, dude. So But I'm going to bank on the other end that he just doesn't get taken down. I'm just going to bank on him to go out there and just knock the shit out of Andre Petroski, because he's been training in Thailand, so he thinks he's a fucking good striker, dude, and he's not, and he's got a bad chin. So I think Edmen Shahbazyan comes out here and knocks out Andre Petroski in round numero uno, round number 1. D Rose, which way are you going here, man?
Yeah, this is another one of those fights that I've been going back and forth with.
I mean, it could go either way. Sorry. Antoine wants to know if Cody could be a future Hall of Famer. I think if you could put the one fight against his performance in the Hall of Fame against Tom Cruise, that one maybe.
Yeah, like you could say that, like, Cody Garbrandt in NFL comparison, and I know this is a little bit after your time watching, but maybe Antoine will, and maybe some of the guys in here understand. Nick Foles, Nick Foles did have the one run to the Super Bowl. He had a glorifying moment when he went to the Super Bowl. But outside of that, Nick Foles is okay. He wasn't great, but during the Super Bowl, he played lights out against Tom Brady and outdueled Tom Brady. So I think Cody Garbrandt is that type of guy. Not necessarily the greatest of all time, but just have one monumental moment. But I think for this fight, man, I've gone back and forth with it so much. We know Andre Petroski, as you said, in the wise words of Jadakiss, knock yourself out. He knocked himself out against Jacob Malkoun with a headbutt to the hip.
Speaking of football references, how about the hometown butt fumble, if you will? It's the same thing.
Yeah, very similar, very similar. And for Edmen Shahbazyan, obviously the dude's got power in his hands. But obviously he has terrible gassing issues and terrible takedown defense. I mean, he just has. He always has. He's a first-round fighter, and I think if he doesn't get Petroski out of there in the first round, I think it's Petroski's fight to lose. And I'm going to go Petroski here. I want to go Petroski, as crazy as it sounds to say, I want to say probably round 3 TKO for Petroski here, because I just think Edmen Shahbazyan just gasses out so much in his fights. Just because he goes for the finish early, usually ends up he either gets it or he gets finished late. Like, that's one thing I will give him. Like, he's a kill or be killed type fighter. But I'm gonna go Andre Petroski here. I'm gonna go round 3 knockout.
All right. With that being said, odds for the fight: -180 Edmen Shahbazyan, Andre Petroski's +150. D Rose on another dog this week. Co-main event time. We've got Miranda Fear the Maverick taking on Thug Rose Namajunas. Thug Rose Namajunas 13-7 overall. Out of her last 5 fights, 2 wins, 3 losses. Lost 3 years ago to Carla Gross. Lost to Manon Fear via split decision. Beat Amanda Hebus via decision. Beat Tracy Cortez via decision after she knocked her eyelash off flying through the air, and then lost to Erin Blanchfield in a close one, dude, where I think she got off early and then maybe lost the last 3, but it's a close fight. Anyway, Rose is 32 years old, 5'5", 65-inch reach, while Miranda Fear the Maverick 15-5 overall out of her last 5 fights. Lost the Jazz a year and 11 months ago. Beat Priscilla Cachoeira a year ago. Beat Andrea Lee, Deani Barbosa, and Jamie Lynn Horth 5 months ago. Miranda is 27 years old, 5'3", and a 65.5-inch reach. I hate this fight because these ladies trained with each other a long time. They might even still train with each other, to be honest. D Rose, who are you picking here? And I'm going to pick the same as you, dude.
I'm going to tell you, I actually don't feel this another fight, man. I think this could go down to the wire. I do not feel great about either going into this fight. But,
all right. In that case, I'll go ahead and just do that.
I can go ahead and pick, because I do know who I'm going to pick. I've gone back and forth, for Rose, for me, man. I think the big thing for her, it just doesn't look like, I swear, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, the UFC 1000% twisted her arm to go up to the 125. Because there was no competitive edge that she was going to have it going up to to 125 because it's not like she had like the most horrendous weight cut at 115. I mean, let's be honest. She's never been the most physically gifted fighter in the UFC. She's just, just has these explosive moments to where, she won the title in explosive fashion against Joanna. She did against Wei Lee. So like there were, she's had all these great moments, but just so many ups and downs. I think for Miranda Maverick, Miranda Maverick is rolling right now. And, she's a good fighter. I think she's got good boxing, good wrestling. I do think there's a path of victory there for her. I think for me, Miranda Maverick, I think you can go back to that Jasmine fight. I think that fight was kind of a little eye-opening for me. I think in both ways. I think I told you since that fight, I've really grown a lot of respect for Jasmine Jasovicius. And I think since then, I think Miranda Maverick, and not that I've like lost anything for her, but it let me know kind of where her ceiling is at. I do think Rose at this point in time, as you said, she still looked good in those first 2 rounds against Blanchfield. But I think Blanchfield, once she was really able to get the takedown there in the third, was really able to wear on Rose late in that fight as the fight went on. I think 3 rounds is going to be a better advantage for Rose here.
Yep.
I just think if Rose stays on the outside, I think she works her jab, uses her footwork. We know Rose has good footwork. And she has no problem stinking up a fight if it means that she can win. So, yeah, I'm going to say Rose here. I think that just the more experience here, I think Rose by decision is the way to go for me. But I'm not.
Yeah.
And for the bet in this fight, I ain't getting near this unless I'm taking any type of over or anything like that.
Yeah. Over 2.5 here is minus 520. The under is plus 350. Rose is a minus 238 favorite. Miranda Maverick is plus 195 the dog. And that's just basically how I seen it. Like if this looks like the Aaron Blanchfield fight, dude, then Rose won the fight because she won the first 2 rounds. So if this was 5 rounds, it could look a little bit different, but I would need to see like Miranda win the first round to have any kind of confidence, dude. And I don't see that happen because Rose is still pretty slick on the feet, dude. So I'm with you. And it's not because of what I said before. I was probably going to lean Rose via decision if you didn't anyway. So me and D Rose both on Rose, Nami Younes via decision. Moving on to the main event of the evening. If y'all haven't already, please do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys, and let's get into it. We got the Nigerian Nightmare, Kamaru Usman, taking on New Mansa, Joaquin Buckley. Kamaru Usman is 20-4 overall out of his last 5 fights, 2 wins, 3 losses. 4 years ago, win against Jorge Masvidal, win against Colby Covington, and hasn't won since. He lost to Leon Edwards via head kick, lost the rematch via decision, and then lost to Hamzat via decision a year and 7 months ago. Kamaru Usman is 38 years old, 6 foot, 76-inch reach, while New Mansa, Joaquin Buckley, is 21-6 overall out of his last 5 fights, 5-0. Win over Alex Morono, win over Vicente Luque, win over Nursultan Rizboev, win over Wonderboy, and win over Colby Covington 5 months ago. Joaquin Buckley is 31 years old, 5'10", and a 76-inch reach. Yeah, D-Rose, I think it's just that time, man. We see this matchup all the time when, we've had a fighter that was a champion. He's not anymore. He's a little bit older now, hitting that decline. It's at 170, so it's not like, he can be a heavyweight, last, 42, 43 and be all right still. Like 170 is kind of like, I guess, the biggest of the smaller guys, if you will. That's kind of how I like fucking look at it. I look at like fucking 185, like the smallest of the big guys, and like 170, like the biggest of the small guys. Like I kind of draw the line like right in between 170 and 185, but that's just me. Yeah, man, he looked all right up at 185 against Hamzat, but I think everyone performs well against Hamzat because they know it could be the biggest fight of their life if they could win. Like, look at Gilbert Burns, look at, Usman in that fight. Rob Whittaker didn't turn out too well for him, but, he at least tried. But what I'm getting to basically is I just basically think it's Joaquin Buckley's time. He's just went on this run down at 170, and Usman's older now. He hasn't fought 170 in a while. So what's he going to even look like down here? What's the weight cut going to look like down here? And Usman just moves so slow. Joaquin Buckley so fast, moving side to side, dude. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw New Mansa Joaquin Buckley knock out Kamaru Usman, maybe something like the Wonder Boy, because Wonder Boy had never been knocked out aside. Did he get knocked out by Pettis?
Yeah, Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, but aside from that, never happened. And then Joaquin Buckley just ran him down, just put it on him, dude, and like hit him with like his like fucking wrist and still knocked him out. So Joaquin Buckley has the power to get basically anyone out of there. Let's go Joaquin Buckley, round 2 or round 3 knockout for me, D Rose. I'm gonna let you pick.
Yeah, I think honestly, my analysis isn't too different from yours. I do think that Usman, great fighter. He's been one of my favorites for a long time, and and honestly, I still think even in that Hamzat loss, he looked good taking the fight off the couch on 10 days' notice. And I think if the fight had gone 5 rounds, I think Usman probably wins that fight. Like, I mean, let's just be honest. So, I do think that Usman has looked good even in his losses. I still think you can kind of make the argument that he beat Leon Edwards in that 3rd fight. I mean, Leon Edwards literally had the most fence grabs and eye pokes and nut shots I'd ever seen in a fight without having a fighter have a point taken. Like, I know he had that point finally taken there in the 3rd round, but it felt like Leon was doing every bit of cheating he could to win that fight. And he got away with it. But look, Usman has still been competitive even in his losses. So I don't think this is going to be a wash by any means. I do think Buckley's going to be the faster guy. I think you saw with the takedown defense that he showed against Colby. He's going to be ready for, Buckley's going to be ready for the takedowns from Usman. And Usman, although he's got pretty good takedowns, he's not the best with his control. Control makes a ground and pound. It's either he's holding the guy down or he's probably landing some punches as the guy's kind of building himself back up. But he's not the best at like holding guys down, getting submissions and stuff like that as well. So, and I think Buckley's going to be the faster guy. I think this fight still ends up actually being a pretty fun fight. I don't know if we get quite JDM Bilal type fight, but I think this fight's going to end up being like a little bit of a banger. I think they both scrap it out. Both guys are going to come out here bloody, bleeding, lips swollen, stuff like that. But I think Buckley ends up landing the more damage to get the job done. I'm going to say by decision, and I think that 4 or 5 or decision prop for Buckley this weekend, I think that's going to be one of my favorite plays of this week, man, because I think that's a nice little sweet spot. I think I saw it was like plus 110 earlier in the day. It might have dropped a little bit since then, but yeah, I like Buckley to get it done by decision.
If you had to pick round 2 or round 3 knockout, which one would it be? 3?
I'd probably say 3, but I just don't see him getting it done early, man. I just don't see.
That's just me. That's just my pick. I just think he knocks him out, but I just wasn't sure round 2 or round 3.
Yeah, for me, I don't know why. I just don't see an early knockout. I mean, I just think Usman is just too. I think Usman's just too tough, and maybe he's too tough for his own good. I don't know, but yeah, I think Usman at least lasts the first 3 rounds, and as I said, I think it ends up being a fun fight.
All right. With that being said, moving on. Our last topic of the week, the fisting of the week, D Rose. Our contenders are Malcolm Wellmaker versus Chris Moutinho, or I guess Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig, right?
It's not close. Malcolm Wellmaker.
All right. Fisting of the week will be Malcolm Wellmaker to fist Chris Moutinho. Fist him a bunch of times, fist him one time, fist him all the times. But Chris Moutinho will have a hole at the end of the night. That's what we are calling.
Yes, he will collapse like the tower that Cameron Simon did in their last fight, because Cameron Simon literally looked like a collapsing tower in that knockout loss to Wellmaker. I think Wellmaker can do the same to Moutinho this week, man. I think it's gonna be rough. All
right, so that's the fisting of the week, and let's see what you guys got to say before we get out of here. So, does Joaquin get a title shot after this? I think he probably gets one more, dude, because UFC doesn't seem. I don't know. There's other contenders at 170, dude. There's still Ian Gary. There's Shavkat. I say he fights one of those guys like Ian Gary, like a Shavkat, a Sean Brady. He beats one of those guys for sure next. But I think one of those three, it's like I still think they're above him.
Well, he even admitted during the press conference earlier today that he's one more fight away. He said he thinks he gets a win against Usman. Usman's number 5. So he said he thinks even then he still has to fight one more time, plus with Islam moving up. And he even said himself, like, he thinks that, Islam and JDM can fight later in the year. He doesn't want to wait a whole nother year for potentially a title shot and let something, pass him by. So he's up for fighting whoever after this. But, yeah, he's well aware that he needs one more fight after this. And as far as the bear in my trash, no, I have a building right outside. And I do. So I've been putting my trash in there here lately, and the bear has not been able to get into it. I was leaving it out because during the winter I got a little pampered with just running out there, just throwing in the trash and then running back in when it was cold. But no, I unfortunately had to roll it in the building, but he has not gotten into the trash since then. So thank goodness.
All right. D-Rose, before we get out of here, I do have a $10 free bet that I do want to use, but can I interest you in a 5-leg parlay that comes out to minus 105? It's Malcolm Wellmaker minus 1600, Jamie Lynn Horth minus 530, Hidalgo Bellado minus 400, Mansoor Abdul Malik minus 900, and Umar C minus 850. The 5-leg parlay comes out to minus 105.
Gross. Absolutely gross.
I can't do it. It's just not even worth it. Let's see. I have $10 here. Let's go. Phil Rowe, Ricky Simone. Are you going? No, you're going the other side. I'm on Cody Durden. We're on Michael Chiesa.
Yes.
We're on Hidalgo Bellado. Man sure is a huge favorite. No point. We are split on Hani. We are split on Petrovsky. We also have to do the pick champ of the week. Can't forget that.
Yes,
we are on Rose and Buckley. All right. $10 free bet at plus 831. It's Phil Rowe, Ricky Simone, Michael Chiesa, Hidalgo Bellado, Rose, and Joaquin Buckley. All money line.
Those
right?
Yeah, those are rough.
I mean, the other ones are like minus 800 favorites. So
yeah. Okay, so we'll do pick champ of the week here. I'm gonna go. Let's go. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a rough week.
We only have 4, dude. Durden versus Ochoa, C versus Minifield, Barcelos versus Garbrandt, and Shabazian versus Petrovsky.
Yeah, let's let's drop Minifield versus C and let's keep the rest on there. So yeah, that's a rough pick champ week, but
I mean, I got a dog and 2 favorites. You got 2 dogs and a favorite. Not bad. One of us got to have the dog.
We'll take it though. Woo! This is a rough week. Good day.
D-Red's gonna be beans this week. Beans. They're good for your heart. The more you eat them, the more you throw up in a food line bag.
or my napkin over here, as it literally looks disgusting and black from where I literally wiped my tongue with it earlier.
Yeah. How's life been treating you, boys? The finals going crazy. Yeah, I have a parlay. Not looking too good for me tonight, though. I'm going to be honest. I need Lou Dort to get a steal and Chet to get a block, and neither one of them's happening. It's 3 minutes left in the game, so probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen for your boy tonight, but maybe next week.
Yeah, Jalen Williams cooked me on mine, so he ended up getting 24 points. I'll take the under.
I told you, dude. Just 15. Just 15 plus. It's good. 15 plus, he's getting it. You ain't got nothing to worry about. All right, man. Well, with that being said, that's all for us today here on the Golden Octagon MMA podcast. We're here about 2 hours and 20 minutes. A long one here today, but lots of UFC 316 to cover, lots of news in between to cover, and some upcoming bangers this weekend in Atlanta. Shout out ATL. With that being said, if y'all are going to the fights this weekend, hope we have a fantastic time. Enjoy the fights. It is a great atmosphere at some UFC fights, so enjoy the time there. It should be some fun fights, except for the co-main event. That shit's gonna suck, and I'm sorry. But anything before we get out of here, D-Rose?
No, I think we're good to go, man. Good luck this weekend, and hopefully we can rake in some more money, because we both had a pretty, obviously you had a better weekend than me, but even with the big favorites, we were able to squeeze out some value and get some money out of there. So hopefully we can do it again this week.
Hell yeah, man. I agree. How's y'all's NFL teams? I don't really have an NFL team. I think I'm most interested in Washington, though. It's the opposite of D-Rose.
I thought the Cowboys drafted well. I just thought that
and a bunch of linemen.
yeah, which is truthfully what they needed. Offensive, defensive linemen, and a couple running backs. So hey, I ain't too mad at it. Let's just see if they can actually, exact it.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, that's going to be all for us here today on the Golden Octagon MMA podcast. You catch me Friday on Change of Cheddar right here. You catch me and D-Rose back here next Wednesday for the Golden Octagon MMA podcast number 164. So appreciate you guys for stopping by. If y'all haven't already, hit that thumbs up button on y'all's way out, and we will catch you guys next week for another podcast. Y'all stay safe. Remember, at the end of the day, it's a fist fight, and anything can happen. We'll catch you guys later. I'm not doing this no more. Peace, y'all. No more Juliana Pena stamina sucker. Peace. It is what it is. Catch y'all later.